Now, say my name.
The Rolling Bad Podcast.
You're goddamn right.
Coming to you almost live from the soon-to-be demolished war room in Rio Rancho, New Mexico, it's the Rolling Bad Podcast, episode number 97. It's August 30th, and I'm your host, Elric. Nah, I love getting up early. Edge. With me today is
Bill, I did this to myself, Costello.
What are you referring to there, buddy?
Virtually everything that's happened in the last month.
Oh, fair enough. Oh, yeah. So, diligent listeners may have noticed a hiccup, a slight,
A brief interruption of service.
a wrinkle in time.
Yeah.
We didn't have a show.
Yeah,
2
we
weeks ago.
skipped an entire 2-week period. So it's been
Yeah.
a month since we recorded. That's scary. And for that, I apologize. But I
Oh.
had medical issues. I was having migraines.
Yeah.
I was having migraines brought on by well, I won't give the details because there might be more to come on that later.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Oh.
But just suffice to say, I got some bad meds that proceeded to give me migraines for like 3 weeks. Really bad ones. And I
Right.
don't get my whole life I had a couple of migraine headaches. And even then, I could not understand how people lived with those when they got them like daily,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then to suffer from like 5 or 6 a day
Yeah.
was like, wow, I don't know if you have that and it's uncontrollable. I feel for you now.
Yeah.
Wow.
I used to get them when I was a lot younger, like a teenager.
Yeah.
I haven't had them in probably 20 years, but
Yeah.
they're
It's-
brutal.
Yeah. It's just, any amount of light would just freaking kill me.
Yeah.
Oh, it was hellish. I'd be sitting in here either like building a model or painting. I gave up painting for like a month because it would hit like a truck.
Yeah.
And then I would just drop everything and have to run for the bedroom and get under the covers.
Yeah.
And, it doesn't lead to, I did put an X-Acto knife through my finger one time. Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, in this side and out the other. Yeah. Because
That's
just
good time.
it hit and I was in the middle of slicing off some stuff and I just went, "Ba-doop." Oh, so I was bleeding and hiding under the covers.
That's what you get, Bill, when you buy discount Molly. Told you to get the good.
The dude said it was good stuff.
Yeah, the dude was wearing fishnet and nothing else.
Well,
You kind of get what you pay for.
so
buddy.
I kind of trusted him.
Yeah.
Do apologize for missing all that time, but we're back and better than ever.
Yeah.
The migraines have seceded. They have gone away. I've gone like 2-3 days now. Yay.
Nice.
So I think that ship has sailed. Yay. So what are we going to talk about in episode 97?
Warhammer.
Oh,
Yeah, like a month's worth of Warhammer.
is that what we do?
I think so.
Huh, okay, cool. Anything specific? I could probably cover the agenda, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to do some shout outs to some folks that have really gone above and beyond and helped us out. And we're going to talk about like 2 pages of New Dawn stuff because there's been so much.
Yeah.
But then we're going to talk a little bit about creation and the things that we have created and are planning to create. But in the lore segment, when I apologized for missing last week, I threw out a quick, hey, does anybody want to hear us talk about anything? And we got some really interesting tweets back.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get to it when we get to lore. A lot of the show, we're going to refer forward to the lore segment because there's one question on there that I think bears and might take up a lot of our time. So we might have to split some of these across different shows. It all revolves around where do we see AOS going. So I think that's what we're going to really focus on is where are we and where are we going and what is this new stuff in the preview hint at? And I have some very maybe controversial ideas about where we're going. And I will lay those on you. I will put a learning on you.
Wow.
Yeah, that's kind of what we're going to talk about. Anything else we're going to talk about? You going to throw anything in on there?
Like
Or
a month's worth of releases.
Oh, God, yeah. New Dawn's going to be hefty. but it's what we pontificate for. So,
Yeah.
and we have like a metric ton of stuff to go over.
Yeah. It's almost
'Cause-
like we've been gone for a month.
Yeah, it's weird. And it's almost like GW has been, I don't know, flooding the market with stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, there was frustration in my voice there. I'm sorry. I am no Brandon. I am no good at maintaining an even keel. And I'll explain that line here in a minute. But we actually have a bunch of shout outs to go over in this episode.
Why?
Because people have done some pretty amazing things, for me at least. You know,
Well, don't give us shout outs, Bill. I don't know why we gotta do this.
because I feel like people should be rewarded for the stuff they do without expectation of something in return.
Yeah, exactly. So they did something for us, and they don't get anything in return.
Wow, have the roles here reversed or what?
Yeah.
Excuse me, I'm gonna go get my voter registration ID and make sure.
Yep.
Okay. Anyway, one of the things I wanted to shout out real quick. If you ever listen to the Realm and Ruin podcast, really good show. Really fun show, but they have changed their format a little bit to where they are now truly the Realm and Ruin podcast. So if they tell you that this is a Realm episode, it's kind of lore and discussion about the game and the hobby and stuff like that. Whereas if it's Ruin, I'm sorry,
Yeah, I was gonna
if
say
it's Ruin,
if only you had written this down.
yeah, you know, Roten.
Jesus
Wow.
Christ. We are both in trouble. Everybody.
English are your second language. So Ruin shows are the lore and discussion. Realm shows are the hobby and news and all that stuff. So depending on what you really dig from them, or I mean, I listen to all their shows because
Yeah.
they got good stuff.
I turned you on to him, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
You did. After we very badly called them out on one of the shows. Yeah, we referred to them rather incorrectly. So
Oh yeah, I kept calling him Wrath and Ruin or something
Yeah,
like
Wrath
that. Yeah,
and
that's
Ruin.
right. Yeah. Good
because Wrath and
Lord.
Glory was, you know,
Yeah,
it was
that's right.
top of mind at the time. So we were bad. We were bad. I also want to send a shout out to Cubic Shenanigans, episode 56. If you guys aren't listening to Cubic Shenanigans, you're doing something wrong, but they are fantastic. In this latest show, no, I'm sorry, 57 is out, but in episode 56, where they talk about 40K and the new 9th edition and all that stuff. And this is something that Brandon really, really gets behind. I mean, he is a super proponent for 40K. Not. And for those of you that don't know, Brandon is the newly elected AOSTO for Adepticon. So he's got chops in the AOS community. So he is a somebody. So his disdain for 40K, you know, it might be there. But they had to do a show on it because they do the whole Warhammer hobby like we do.
Uh-huh.
And so he hosted the show where they talked about 9th edition, except he did it in the most brilliant way possible. He did it as an NPR anchor, totally even keel, totally deadpan the whole time. His voice never changed in pitch once. It was like listening to a true professional do an AOS podcast, to the point of, I mean, even when he was asking people to, you've stated your issue, now prove your point. And I was like, oh my God, what have they done with Brendan?
Nice.
Yeah, it's a great show. It's I literally had to pull over a couple of times because I was laughing so hard at Brandon's very even tempered, very even keeled, and yet he was managing to put in the passive aggressive. Oh, it's hilarious. Good stuff.
Nice.
So
Oh.
now in the strictly,
Yeah, this next one you didn't show me.
I didn't?
No. You sent me a picture.
Yeah, that's all I have so far.
Oh, I thought he had already sent this.
Oh, no,
Okay,
not
let's
yet,
talk
not
about
yet.
it. Let's talk about it.
Okay, so friend of the show, Velotron, I think that's how you say it, Vale Otron. It's at _ Vale Lotron _ He actually contacted and contracted the guy over at Artists Empire, which is at Artists Empire, to do one of his paint overs for my Nighthaunt army.
Yeah.
And then he tweeted out what it looked like. And they sent me the original to look at and to say yay or nay. I had to send him If you don't know what Artists Empire does, he basically takes pictures of your army. You just send him snaps, and then he puts it into a scene and blends it all in
It's
beautifully.
phenomenal. It's
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Yeah, it's amazing work. He did it with my Night Haunt and made them very, very ethereal and very. I will put the picture up on the Facebook, and
Yeah.
it's already been up on Twitter. So if you just look through my feed on Twitter, you'll see lots of people have given it likes. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's got this great, like, distorted view as if you were looking at a ghost kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's like out of focus, but in focus at the
Yes.
same time. It's really, really well done.
Yeah, he captured the paint job, but put it into a real ethereal, nightmarish scene. And it's, wow, that's the kind of artistry that I just don't get. I wouldn't even know where to start to do
Yeah.
something like that.
Well, and it helps that your Night Haunt is painted really well. It looks good.
Yeah, he definitely makes it shine. So I really want to thank Artist Empire, but mostly Velatron for commissioning that to be done. That was
Yeah.
super cool, and I appreciate it.
This is the one that, okay. I didn't see that. The next one.
Oh,
This one. Do you have them?
yes, I do.
Okay.
I'll show them to you here in a bit. I have to dig for them. But yeah, I was actually talking to the guy who made your Maw Crusher.
Yes.
That's Dan C., lore master of Wyvern Husbandry, which frightens me on so many levels.
Well,
But he's actually at the Tyromancer
someone's
on
gotta
Twitter.
do it.
We got to talking, and I was like, I just 3D printed these salamander heads, or these drake heads, that I was going to use to mount on my Outriders, my bikes for 40K. And the only thing I have a FDM printer, 3D printer, that spits out the plastic and lines.
Yeah.
And I was going to have to do a lot of work to make them even look tolerable at that small level.
Right.
So then I was like, hey, you've got a resin printer. Can I send you these files and, see maybe if you can even print them? I sent him these raw STL files. Half hour later, he has these completely realized 3D models where he's fixed all of the things that would say, no, you can't print this out on a resin because it's not going to work right. And he's done all this Blender. I don't know if he used Blender. He told me what he used. It was a different program. But I mean, he's completely revamped the files to where they'll print out. And then he just went and printed out a whole bunch of them and sent them to me. I'm like, dude, I owe you so much. All he asked for was shipping. So I was like, my God, thank you so much, Tyromancer, at the Tyromancer. Those are incredibly gorgeous.
Yep.
And they will be centerpieces on my Salamander's army.
That you'll never paint.
Haha, you are so wrong.
Am I?
Yes.
Okay.
I have this year to finish that army. I will finish my hobby goals for 2020.
Really?
Yes. I'm drawing a line in the sand right now. I will finish that. I will. I am so tired of making excuses for why I didn't get 2,000 points of an army painted, I don't know, in a calendar freaking year, when I showed that I could do it with, whenever I wanted to. Whenever I needed to finish my Night Haunt, I just did those. I started my OCRs. I'm going to start my Lumineth. I'm going to start my yeah, okay. So I'm a failure.
You had me for a second there, Bill. I heard like this sense of urgency in your voice.
No, I'm going to do the Salamanders. I am going to.
Okay, so what else was we did this recap episode a while back.
Yeah.
Of like all these pie in the sky.
My goals for this year were to finish my Night Haunt army.
Which you did.
Which is done. To finish up the AOS narrative event for LVO coming up, which I am going to finish that obviously this year, but I have to take it in stages because, the whole idea of my custom heroes that I used last year, I think has to be scrapped because there's now the Anvil of Apotheosis. Why don't I let people build their own hero to bring? I will give them a point allotment, and then they can build the hero that they want and maybe model it the way they want. So now I have to go change the pack on the website and all that stuff. So, there's...
Sure.
I'm staying on top of it. I'm not going to be struggling the last month before LVO to... The only thing I need to work on now are the scenarios for the individual tables. So,
Okay.
yeah. And then I said I was going to build 2,000 points of salamanders. And that's the only thing that I have yet to accomplish. And yet in the last month, I have built probably 1,200 points.
Not bad.
And
Okay.
now with Crusade kicking off, I'm probably modifying that a little bit to where I'll do 100 power level.
Yeah,
You know.
that makes sense for
Yeah.
us. We're power level kind of gamers. We don't
Yeah.
care about the points.
Yeah, it's much, much easier. On top of that, I will probably do 2,000 points of Necrons too, because I really want to play the Necrons, but not in this interregnum phase between the drop
Right.
and the
new
book. Because right now, like even with the power level changes, they're costed in a little weird way that doesn't make sense.
Sure, but there's
So-
nothing stopping you from doing the hobby aspect. of
Right,
it,
yeah,
having the models ready for
The
when
building
the book
and
drops.
the other part is I don't know what else I need to build. I don't want to build a whole bunch of Lich Guard only to find out that they're lousy. Which when we looked on the website, they're not lousy no more.
Yeah, no, I have a hard time believing that pretty much anything in that book will be trash.
No, it's going to be good, but I want to see what
Sure.
really is going to be good. Like I already have 6 wraiths painted up. Do I need more? Do I need less? What do I do from here? I know, like, I want to build that other monolith, but not with the new ones coming out.
Oh, yeah,
know?
true.
I mean, it's
True.
like those are so gorgeous.
What were my hobby goals for the year? I don't remember. I know there was definitely the Templar/Sisters. I have a feeling it boiled down to I know for sure it had the Templars and Sisters.
Yeah.
And then I'm pretty sure it had Iron Jaws.
Yeah, I don't recall exactly what you're thinking, but you were pretty much on the way because it was Sisters of Battle and it was Templars, I believe.
Yeah, I know I had the Faith and Fury
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Yep. Yeah, you were going with that motif.
And then I'm pretty sure Iron Jaws. So my stuff won't get done.
Probably will. Why not?
Yeah, we'll see.
You can do it.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to New Dawn because there's only a metric ton of stuff that we haven't talked about. And so rather than list out absolutely everything and talking about it, I just put some highlights down here. I figured you would jump in with whatever you felt was important enough to add.
Absolutely none of it.
Okay. So this week's pre-order was the Blackstone Fortress very last expansion called Ascension, which is another one of those $110 expansions.
With 2 models.
More than that, I think.
Oh, I thought it only had the 2 giant spindle drones.
Well, it's also got map tiles
Oh,
lots of accoutrement for the system. And I think it only was the 2 big spindle drones.
I think so.
Yeah, I wonder if that amulet of yours works against them.
I don't know. Gonna find out the hard way, I have a feeling.
Because, you got the anti-spindle drone amulet.
Yeah, pretty much shuts them down.
Yeah. So I was sitting there as I saw that, and I looked back through all of the things that have come out for Blackstone Fortress. And
a lot.
if you purchased everything,
Oh, God.
1 of everything, because you don't need 2 of any of it,
Sure.
unless you were buying it, say the trader stuff, you could buy that for your 40K army. But if you just bought 1 of all of that stuff, you are into that game system for over $800.
Whoa.
I know Settlers of Catan has a lot of expansions out there, and I know some of the major big games have
Munchkin.
a lot. Yeah, Munchkin and all that stuff. But
That's
that's
a lot.
pretty hefty amount of retail value in a game system that they're now saying this is the end. This is the last expansion for Blackstone. Damn well it won't be a year before we see its next incarnation.
Yeah, whatever
And
that is.
Will it be in the Mortal Realms? Will it be more 40K? That future looks really, really bright.
Yeah, Blackstone Fortress crushed it.
It did. And I'm thinking if you took that same motif, that same game system and adapted it to the Mortal Realms, you would have probably the same kind of hit on your hands. Although there is still that thing of, does the AOS crowd generate that much sale that the 40K crowd does?
I don't know. I think one of the things that you'd have to do, because this version is everybody against Chaos. Blackstone Fortress is everybody against Chaos.
Right.
Whereas Silver Tower and, well, Warhammer Quest
Yeah.
was you could just play everything.
Yeah.
So your Chaos Sorcerer could be next to my Stormcast Eternal, which is just
Right.
goofy. I think that's difficult for immersion. And I know that was kind of a nod at the original Warhammer Quest where
Sure.
you could play a Chaos Warrior and a Warrior Priest,
Yeah.
a Sigmar next to each other. So I think for the sake of narrative immersion, you might need to have it so that you can play an order party against
Against a
the other stuff. There's no reason why you couldn't. There's tons of freaking order armies.
sure.
You know, there's a lot to draw from just there. So that, and you could do something where it's your order party against, and not even against chaos. It could be digging around in an old tomb that's filled with death.
Yeah.
Lots of crazy death stuff. Or
Sure. You could set it up against anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some cool destruction themed things.
Or
Who
maybe-
knows, you know?
In the one box, you could have it where anyone could be the bad guy. Even Order could be the people defending the Citadel. You know, you could make an open-ended system.
Sure.
I don't know. There's so many thoughts out there. I'm sure they'll come up with a good one. And I mean, my wonderment is the setting developed enough to be able to set something in like that and have it take off?
Yeah.
40K, if you're in the gaming larger community, you know of Games Workshop and 40K. They are a large enough force that when they release something, it's on all of the major media outlets within the gaming hobby.
Sure.
Whereas if they release something for AOS, does that have the same impact as the 40K?
Yeah, I
So-
don't know. I mean, it still has the Warhammer Quest label on it. And Warhammer Quest is,
Yeah,
it's kind of like Blood Bowl. It transcends,
the company.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's so big. Now, I just had a thought when you mentioned about how the Mortal Realms being fleshed out enough now. One of the things to look at as a potential negative, I guess, is like the 8 Lamentations books.
Yeah.
Because that's very much a Warhammer Quest style
Yeah.
book series where it's like an adventuring party going out and
Mhm.
doing stuff. And apparently they didn't do that well,
Yeah.
which is a shame because I thought they were fantastic.
I
Probably my
know.
favorite Age of Sigmar stuff.
Yeah.
Probably some of my favorite Warhammer themed
Yeah.
stuff was those.
I thought they were good books.
And yeah, and apparently, you know, they didn't do too great. And that's basically what you're playing, right? Is like the board game version of that. So maybe, whereas something on the 40K side of like Ravener
Yeah.
or whatever, where you know, it's not Space Marine porn. It's more of like other agents of the
Inquisitor
Inquisition.
porn.
Yeah. And that's kind of what you can play
Yeah.
in Blackstone Fortress.
Yep.
I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah. I don't know. I find it it'll be interesting to see where they go.
I'm definitely hyped for a Mortal Realms version of
Yeah.
of Warhammer Quest again.
Yes. With the
Uh,
Blackstone or its successor rules,
Yeah.
because those are just brilliant. And I think the original Warhammer Quest game, you know, the Silver Tower, was really, really good. When they did Shadows under Hammerhall,
Yeah.
I think they tried to bring in those outside aspects of, you know, trade and increase in buying toys to go out on your next adventure with, but they didn't buy into the level of Blackstone where it was an ingrained
Yeah.
portion. And so it just sort of fell flat on I don't want to say it fell flat on its face, but obviously sales didn't justify keeping it around because it's gone.
Oh, and it was no original models.
No.
I wonder how much that affects it too.
That's true. You were feeding a 40K frenzy with Blackstone Fortress because there was nothing in there that you couldn't use.
Yeah.
Nothing. Whereas you're right, in Blackstone, it was all new sculpt of existing stuff. And in some cases, not even new sculpt. So hopefully, I mean, they're going to take what they learned from
Yeah.
this and move on. I'm hoping it's going to be cool. So this week, what released was the amazing Aomer
Oh
model
my God.
with the horse and the dismounted
So
version.
freaking good. And I've already seen painted,
Yes.
like top end
Yeah.
painted versions of
Yeah.
it on social media. It's,
And the one I saw was
Oh.
like, oh, that's a still from oh, no, it's not the movie.
yeah.
Because Aomer's in it twice. Yeah, that guy knocked it out of the park. So for Aeronautical Imperialis, the Avenger Strike Fighters,
Yeah.
Wow. I cannot wait to build those.
Why is it that? So this stuff has been around forever, right? Like this is just old Forge World stuff, right?
Mhm.
Like, I'm not talking about the scale, but the Thunderbolts,
Mm-hmm.
the Tau stuff. But for some reason, seeing it at this scale is just so cool.
It is so, it captures that, for me anyway, it captures that this is what an air battle should look like.
Yeah.
Lots of planes on the
Yeah.
board. Not this plane represents 15 squadrons. No, I don't want to hear that. Or, meanwhile, air stuff at the 40K level, to me, that's part of the game. It's not a game in and of itself.
Well, and also, if we're just playing like a 2,000 point game and you have a Thunderbolt,
Yeah.
right, flying over that occasionally drops a bomb, it's not the same.
No.
I mean, if we start playing like Apocalypse,
Yeah.
and you bring in a whole air wing, like we used to play with a guy that had a Imperial Guard army, and it was all Valkyries.
Oh, my
It was
God.
an air cav army, and visually that's pretty stunning, especially when you play bigger
Oh, yeah.
games. This is that, but all the time
At a
it's
level
just-
that is so much more playable,
yeah,
And the game system is dead easy to learn.
yeah, it's so good.
Very hard to master because, it's not everything is just right there in front of you. And
Yeah, and it's the depth is as much as you want it to be.
yeah, oh,
Really,
yeah.
I mean, you could just crack open the boxes, put the planes on the stands, and play pretty basic.
Yep.
And then you could bust out all the cards and all that and start putting like different kinds of missiles and bombs and
Yeah.
auto guns or bolters. And,
Yeah.
I mean, super
Customize
detailed.
the
My
heck out
ace
of 'em.
versus your non-ace. and
Mm-hmm.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
It's such a good game.
They really nailed it.
Yeah.
Aeronautica Imperialis is good
Yeah.
stuff.
Can't wait till they blend that in with Titanicus
I
and
know.
give us Epic.
They have to. They have to.
I'm just going to keep hammering on that.
And one day they'll listen and go,
Oh.
that's a good idea.
Like, man, do we have enough money? No, let's print Epic. Let's just Scrooge McDuck this thing. Telling you.
To hell with paying our loans off. We're going to pay England's loans off.
Yep.
Oh, my God. There will be no national debt. We will finance it with Epic.
Epic. There you go. The Epic plan. That's how they'll save the NHS,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
right?
Easy.
Single-handedly.
Easy peasy. Wow. Yeah, Bob's the uncle. Yeah, it's done. All right. Anyway.
What the hell was that? What kind of Boston-esque British?
Sort of British, sort of Boston.
That's some wicked porridge, eh?
Wicked cheers, mate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shine your shoes for a nickel, eh?
Oh, can we now offend the rest of the world?
Yeah, right.
Let me say something in French to piss everyone off.
Wow.
Oh, I'm going to edit a lot of that. Okay, so also this week, a lot of Necromunda stuff. For a dead game, they're releasing a lot of Necromunda stuff.
Lots of Necromunda.
Wow. I mean, just another one that's taken off so
Yeah.
crazy good. I mean, they literally haven't released a loser in a while.
This is- yeah, and this is really interesting because I remember like about a year ago, maybe even a little longer, Necromunda dropped, was super popular for a moment, and then they did Kill Team.
Yeah.
And I remember it being explained to me that they were kind of maybe phasing out Necromunda
Yeah.
because it wasn't popular potentially to certain demographics because it's like all gang wars
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And I guess like the phrasing and some of that stuff was a bit, I don't know, whatever. And so that's why they rolled out Kill Team, and Kill
Mhm.
Team had a ton of, I mean, if you remember when that version came out, like that's probably the
Oh, and it's
biggest.
still going great guns.
Yeah. And they put more money behind that and more
Mm-hmm.
publicity and everything than darn near anything they've done before.
Yep.
And yet Necromunda is still here.
Oh, yeah.
It's getting just, gosh, some of the most gorgeous kits you could
Yeah.
ever ask for
Oh,
in a
yeah.
game. It's definitely another one of those where if I could give myself over completely to just gaming,
Yeah.
you better believe I'd pick
I'd
up
be
Necromunda. It
all
is
over that.
beautiful.
Well, it's one of those, I hearken back to when they released Shadow War Armageddon,
Oh, God.
which was the answer to all of the small scale 40K stuff.
Sure.
And I bought into that hook, line, sinker,
Yep.
and you know what? And to have it then within 6 months be completely usurped.
Like not even acknowledged.
No, that they refused to acknowledge that ever existed.
Yeah, that was bizarre.
And God help you if you have a roll of those stickers that says works with
Yeah.
Shadow War Armageddon.
Yep.
Because, oh man, you will get killed. But it's still, I look back at that and go, this was where they decided, I believe in my sort of heart of hearts, this is where they believed that Necromunda and Kill Team had to go in different directions. Because when you tried to combine them with Shadow War, it flopped. It went over like a lead balloon.
Well, yeah.
And this was where I thought, because the idea that Kill Team is completely a separate system from Necromunda, and yet in Shadow War Armageddon, you saw the blending of those. There's real roots in Shadow War Armageddon to both systems, but you can see where it flopped so bad that they realized, nope, this has to be two separate releases, and there's enough Necromunda people out there to keep that line alive, and we will test the waters with this Kill Team thing. And they were just completely blown away by how well it was accepted.
Yeah, well, I think two things there. One, Necromunda is very similar to Blood Bowl in that it's a nostalgic thing.
Yeah.
For so many people. It's what got so many people into tabletop gaming, just like
Yes.
Blood Bowl did as well. And even Mordheim.
Yeah.
And Mordheim's another one that for some reason has never been resurrected or whatever.
But will be. So.
You think?
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, but we have Warcry.
Doesn't matter. Again, it's that whole thing of why do we have Kill Team when we have Necromunda? Same thing. No, Mordheim, Warcry is very, very simple. Kill Team is very, very simple. Necromunda, you don't just jump in and say, oh, I want to try this out. There's a lot. You have to customize every figure. You have to, if you're going to approach it correctly, you customize the gangs, you customize everything. You have the cards. You have to invest in this and that. When the next edition of Mordheim comes out, I think you're going to see that it is a Mortal Realms version of Mordheim at a very, very detailed level where the Sisters of Sigmar are going to, be a thing, and equipping this one with a whip and that one with a hammer and this one with the book is going to make a very large difference. So
I'm going to hold you to that, Bill.
Well,
you better make that happen.
Okay.
And everybody listening, if you're hyped for it, you better start tweeting Bill. Tell him to get on it.
I have to fly to England,
Yeah,
pitch
it's all
it to
single-handedly on your shoulders. The second thing,
pitch it to Phil Kelly, and he never listens to me.
he never listens.
God. All right, I'm working it.
The second thing is, I think one of the issues with Shadow War was that it was the old mechanics of Warhammer 40K, right as 8th edition was rolling out.
Yeah.
And 40K got AOSified essentially. So 40K became very simplistic.
Yeah.
But not in a bad way, but it became more streamlined, I should say. But you had this skirmish version that was still very convoluted and had all these.
Well, and it was a bleed between Necromunda and 40K 7th. And it didn't.
Yeah.
It was acceptable, but didn't work. And yet you can see where Kill Team came from the distillation of some of that planning and some of the effort that went into it. So, I mean, as far as I think internally, they don't consider Shadow War Armageddon to be a total loss because it probably launched the idea for Kill Team.
Yeah, trampoline.
Yeah, a springboard, if you will. But yeah, it's still it.
Have you seen the stuff for that new Necromunda video game?
Oh, my.
Underhive Wars or whatever? Yeah. Wow.
I just want to get sick. I just want to puke.
Yeah, it looks cool. Looks so cool.
It's, we're finally starting to see some of this 40K, not so much AOS, but we're starting to see some of this stuff being realized in the digital world.
Yeah.
And, oh, my God, it's just.
There's a couple AOS games down the pipe.
I'm telling you that look.
Way down the pipe. 2000. I think earliest one is next year.
But yeah, I mean, it takes a while to build these things. It's
Oh, yeah.
not something you just, I've been watching the Horizon Zero Dawn, the making of it, and all they had to go through just to make one of the monsters work.
Yeah.
And their whole thing is if we can make this thing work, if we can articulate it correctly, then we can make a game. If we can't, we're scrapping the whole project.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, to that level to where if you can make some of the basics go, then yeah, you'll make a video game. But man, if you can't get it, you can't just throw money until it works.
Well, and that's the thing too, is like, they don't talk about, you don't hear about this sometimes with video game companies, but if they don't get that to work, that could very well bankrupt your whole company.
Yeah.
You know, the amount of time and effort and money that they put into some of these AAA titles, if they flop
Yeah.
or they don't even go gold,
Yeah.
it can mean everybody's out.
It's, you know, in some of these video game companies, you know, people look at, you know, Guerrilla Games or Blizzard, well, Blizzard in the early days and all these things. These weren't huge companies. These were 50 people,
Yeah.
and the artist staff and the people rendering was 30 of those. There was
Yeah.
one HR lady and one database guy and one IT guy and 30 artists and you know, digital 3D engineers and all that stuff trying to make it work. And yeah, if it flops, there's no income, people.
Yeah,
Sorry, we're done. You know? So yeah, it's a risk. Now, I mean, obviously for the big titles now, they can take these risks, but it's still not something that, you know, Blizzard doesn't go and do something like whatever that is, Overwatch, and just go, well, let's throw this at the wall and see if it sticks.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that was carefully considered. So,
Well, yeah, and it's also why I think some of these video game companies keep rehashing. You know, like we get an Assassin's Creed every year.
Yeah.
Like, well, it's a steady source of income.
that's right.
You know.
And once the engine is viable,
Yeah.
now all you need is scenes and artists and, you know, what's our storyline going to be?
That's
And you
it.
can move on and still create new content.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's why you see a lot of that. But getting back to our hobby.
Yeah.
They also released the Snotlings for Blood Bowl.
These guys look so cool.
It's somebody for the hobbits to win against.
Yep.
Halflings.
Halflings.
Sorry.
You'll get your C&D in the mail.
I know. But yeah, I mean, the Snotling team is just, and you know, I thought it was funny that Louise Sugden posted, some of my models made it to White Dwarf this time. And I'm like, no, really? Because you're the only one that does
God.
Snotlings worth a damn.
Yeah. Her
Oh.
stuff
Is so over the top good. Snotlings for Blood Bowl. I mean, in
Yep.
the name of God, why?
it's Blood Bowl, man.
You have
It
to-
doesn't have to make sense.
No, you have to be a glutton to play that team. But, you
Yeah.
know, a lot of people are going to play it
Oh, yeah.
for the challenge. One of the other things I wanted to mention that came out during the month that we were in hiatus was the Horus Heresy bookends.
Oh, God, yeah.
Have you seen those rocks?
I have not.
Okay, they are flippin' rocks.
Yeah.
They are huge and they are amazing. Andrews is giving me crap about not painting them. You don't paint those, I don't think. I don't know.
No, you wouldn't paint those.
I don't think so. Yeah. He's like, paint one and then leave the other one. Or buy this other set. I'm like, yeah, dude, stop.
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing is you have that set for your bookends for all your crazy over the top limited,
Yeah.
and then you buy the other set for terrain pieces
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
and paint
statuary.
those.
Oh, yeah. No.
Yeah, he was telling me the same thing. I was like, you devious.
Oh, Andrews is retail at heart.
Yep.
And also, they came out with the Guttrak Venison bookmark.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I thought that was the cool. I had to have it. It's the weirdest thing happened though.
Oh,
They sent it to me. Well, they sent it to the store and I picked it up. And then a day later, they said, hey, we charged you the wrong price. So here's your store credit, you know, your GW site credit for $5. And I've stared at it and looked at it, and everything I've seen, they charged me $20, which was what was on their website.
yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I'll take the credit, but I don't understand.
Well, there you go, Bill.
Hmm.
After 30 years of investing several mortgages worth of money into Games Workshop, you finally got a kickback.
I got my $5.
There you go.
I am rolling in it.
Yeah.
All right, at this time, let's take a quick break to turn the air conditioner on for a little bit.
Yeah, I'm
And
getting moist.
yeah, it's getting a little warm in here. And we will pick up with the new 40K boxes because we are approximately 1/3 of one page done with our agenda.
Yeah,
It's going to be a long show, folks.
it happens. It's the wrong button there, buddy. It just keeps going, too.
And they're mocking me. They're mocking me. And we are back.
It's like such a staple.
I was channeling my inner Dave.
Yeah. So new starter boxes for Warhammer 40K. 3 different styles.
3. Not count them. 1.
Right.
Not 2.
Not 2.
3.
Whatever comes after 2. That's how many we got.
But before 4.
Yeah.
So you have the Recruit Edition, which is, hey kids, here's some Necrons and here's some Space Marines, and the box turns into a piece of terrain. And here's a little mat that fits on your table. Build these models, throw them at each other, and have some fun.
Make
and
pew pew noises.
yeah, make pew pew noises and get hooked for the rest of your life and become an introverted neckbeard like the rest of us.
So good.
Oh, yeah.
So good.
Yeah. I so love getting them while you're young.
Lean into it, Billy.
Yeah.
You're not going to get laid anyways.
That's right. Kid, you don't really have much of a future anyway.
No.
Come on. So,
Girls will just ruin your life.
exactly.
Play some more Hammer.
You're going to get married, have kids, get divorced. Wow. What
Yeah.
a life. Instead,
What are we doing? Okay.
plastic
okay.
won't let you down.
That is true. Unless you buy squats.
Or Tomb Kings.
Zing!
Bazinga. Okay. So yeah, that's the recruit box. It comes with a rules manual, a little book with everything, a pamphlet with how to play the game. Here's some missions, and the missions are all very programmed.
Right.
You first thing you learn is how to move, and then you learn how to shoot in the 40K way. And then the next mission is going to take it a little bit deeper with this, that, and the other thing. And then by the time you're done, you'll have a very good foundation for 40K.
Indeed.
So you step up to the Elite Edition. Now we're talking about if you bought the Indominus box, this box kind of fills out your ranks a little bit and
Sure.
gives you a little bit more oomph.
Substantial chunk of models.
But by itself, it's a completely playable patrol force.
Yeah.
So you have a leader and you have some units that can fulfill the different roles. And you can really play. This is where you start playing a full up game of 40K, a patrol detachment game. So 25 power level, but you are actually playing the real shebang. This is 40K.
Yeah.
You're there. And you have a natural progression from, moms and dads can look at the little box and go, well, you know what? We'll buy that. And if you're still using it here in a
There
couple
you
of
go.
weeks.
There you go.
So, yeah, it provides that that break in to the system.
Yeah.
And then you have the Command Elite Superstar Special Edition, or the Jesus Bill You're Dumb Edition.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
How many of these did you buy?
just one
Oh, okay.
for now.
You have so many Necrons now.
Yes, and Space Marines.
Yeah.
Because the Command Edition has the same set of models that the other edition has, the previous edition, or
The Elite.
as the Elite Edition, except it also adds terrain. So you get some Promethean pipes and this nice little tube tower thing and some ruined building pieces. So you get actual terrain. The board that it comes with is not a paper flip map. It is a heavy cardboard, just like the regular
Mhm.
maps that you can buy. Heavy cardstock, not going to wear out. And, it's going to wear out. It's paper, but it'll get you through a bunch of games. And,
Oh, yeah.
again, the box still functions as a piece of terrain, albeit a little bit too large, but it does form a nice little line of sight blocker in the middle of the terrain, in the middle of the board.
Yeah.
Which you can then set other terrain on it gives you a lot of flexibility.
Right.
And also in that edition is a very, very nice, concise, pocket-sized rule book with just the 40K rules section. None of the lore. All the lore is stripped out of the book, but it's a very portable, very handy, sort of like the one in Chapter Approved set of the original rules with all the scenarios. So that book literally becomes all you need to lug with you. So
Other than the 8 to 12 army books that you'll need.
eventually down the road,
Yeah.
sure, as we bloat the system.
Yep.
But we all look forward to it with this
Yep. We're just going to
gleeful.
keep doing it.
And in fact, right now, if you were to start right now, you would probably need to bring all 9 Psychic Awakening books to have all your War Scrolls. You would need the Necron Codex, the Space Marine Codexes, plus the supplements, plus. Yeah. So anyway, I'm sorry, we're being snotty,
Yeah.
but at
Yeah,
the
you
same
are.
time, they've started to hint at the changes that are coming to units. And can anyone say 2 wound tactical Marines?
Holy cow.
Yeah.
2
So-
wound everything.
2 wound everything.
Marines.
Yes.
So that means all the baby Marines in the Codex Astartes.
Yeah.
It also means all the Marines in Chaos Space Marines.
Yeah. Or does it?
It does.
It does.
Yeah, so they did say that. So all Heretic Astartes will also get,
2 wounds.
yeah.
So 2 wound Plague Marines.
Yeah. Yeah, that was like one of the first things that people talked about.
Well, it would be the first thing I think about as I, look above my head and see a couple thousand points worth of Plague Marines
Yeah.
going,
And 3 wound Terminators.
wow, not like we didn't ask for that for 20 freaking years. And then the
Primaris come in, like, the Primaris is 2 weeks. They're only special. The Terminators have to have 3.
Wow.
sorry,
Yeah, right there, buddy.
might have had a little salt ooze out.
So I wonder if this means that Paladins will go to 4 wounds in the Grey Knight book.
Well, I mean, we hit on it a little earlier when we were talking offline, solving the political woes of the country.
Sure.
At the same time that the wounds are going up, the damage output of the weapons is all going up.
Yeah.
So I truly believe what you're going to see is a net 0.
Sure. Well,
So-
and it also doesn't help that armies in general will get a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
It's like 10 to 20% less models.
Well, and I can kind of see you're not going to Tomb King, you're not going to squat the old Marines.
Yeah.
They have to stay around until people make the decision to move to the Primaris because they're just better models.
Right.
Whereas if GW stepped in tomorrow and said, we are ceasing production of all the old Marines, buy it now or forever hold your peace, there would be a huge, it would make Tomb King controversy and the Bretonian thing look like a flash
Can
in
you
the pan.
imagine the day that we see tactical Space Marines on the last chance to buy
Mhm.
page? Oh,
Number one, I can't wait.
sure. Yeah.
And it's not because I don't like them and I don't think they're great models, because they are. They stand the test of time. Those are good models.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have a better alternative
Yeah.
that's only slightly higher in price, why? I'm not going to throw away the Marines I have right now, and I have boxes and boxes of them, but I'm also not going to buy any new ones. So
Yeah.
you're not going to see them just arbitrarily in the next year or two. When the love of tactical Marines goes away and they're no longer a viable selling thing on the website, there's gonna be a little announcement on the Warhammer community site. Hey, you know what? We haven't sold a tactical Marine in 3 months. We're stopping production. Sorry. And by that time, it will be palatable to everyone because people will have changed.
You're giving the 40K community a lot of credit there.
No, you're right. The day that happens,
Yeah.
there will be a
I'm going to burn the Primaris, man. I'm going to my front yard's going to be on fire with Primaris.
And meanwhile, GW is going to be like, okay,
Sweet.
sure thing. You paid for him. You
Don't worry.
do what you want there.
We'll have all the
pal."
new stuff ready for you when you come crawling back.
Like you always will.
Like you always
Yes.
will.
So how about 12-inch flame weapons?
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
about the little salamander in my heart just went, so
Very tee moment. Yeah.
yeah,
Sisters of Battle.
Templars, Sisters of Battle. Yeah.
I wonder if that means like the hand flamers for Blood Angels too.
Mm.
12 inches. That'd be tasty.
Yeah. It's I'll tell you what, they're making this a deadly game. By making the board smaller, you're still making the size of the force smaller, but extending even just that range by 12 inches. And I've seen what they've done with some of the range on the Necron weapons.
Yep.
And yeah, there's going to be first turn shooting and first turn, maybe not the old Alpha Strikes that we're so used to, but something very, very akin to it. Or in fact, it may just be the soup du jour. We have a very viable reinforcement rule now that makes it to where you're not going to lose your whole army to an Alpha Strike if you plan appropriately. So, yeah, there's all kinds of ways around that Alpha Strike, and the Beta Strike might just be enough to cut the head off the chicken, as it were.
You're a Beta Strike.
No,
Also, heavy bolters going up to damage too.
Yeah.
That is
That's huge.
because I've always been a heavy bolter fanboy.
Mm-hmm.
Even in editions like 1 through 8 where they were trash.
Yeah.
I've always liked them. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, we'll see how the game goes. As more books get released and.
Actually, I think the net out of all of this is basically orcs are dead, Imperial Guard are dead. All these 2-wound weapons are they're great equalizers against the 2-wound Space Marines,
Yeah.
but they're going to make Eldar Guardian squads a thing of the past. Mobs of boys are a thing of the past between blast weapons and all this 2-wound stuff.
Well, that's the thing, though, is damage doesn't overflow.
It doesn't,
40K.
no, but it's still, the volume of fire that you're going to put out
Sure.
is going to, and, obviously we're going to see an orc book that fixes that. We're going to see an Eldar book rather soon that's going to fix all that.
Ultimately, you have to have boots on the ground to win the game.
That's
so, even if life does suck as an Eldar Guardian,
Mm-hmm.
got to get your ass out of that wave serpent and get on that objective.
And the Cadian Guard are going to have to,
Exactly.
they're
Yep.
going to have to man up and just get out there.
Yep.
And yeah, it's quite interesting in the AOS point of view. I've been listening obviously to Cubic Shenanigans, and Dan's going through this whole metamorphosis of taking his 40 block of chain rasps and turning them into a 20 and 2 10 blocks simply to have more units available to do screening and to do jumping on objectives and what have you. You're going to see the same thing in 40K. This is the addition of MSU, multiple small unit. You're going to see a lot of 5-man combat squatted Marine units.
Yeah, and the coherency rules in 40K have
Yes.
changed so that it's
Drastic.
potentially more difficult to get like a 30-man blob around. So it'll be interesting to see what the new books for like specifically orcs and Tyranids. Those are the
Yeah.
two because guard the blob guard went away a long time
Oh,
ago.
yeah.
So it's just 10-man squads anyways. But for orcs and Tyranids, they're the ones that still utilize those great big blobs. I mean, I guess Chaos does a little bit with like cultists and
Boxwalkers.
boxwalkers.
Mhm.
I had a brain fart about those on the last episode. And I think demons too might still use bigger. I don't know.
Mhm.
I haven't really seen a lot of 40K, but the two that always come to mind are orcs and Tyranids that have the great big units. And
Yeah.
now that coherency, which I think is a good thing.
Yes.
There's no more conga line nonsense.
Yes, thank
Um,
God.
And it looks cool too. It's like this big mob in one spot charging towards you.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you look at Hormagaunts, you don't see a stretched out line of 20 inches worth of Hormagaunts.
Right.
You think of them as a swarm that is just
This wave.
all over each other, crawling
A
over each
flood.
other to get to you.
Mhm.
And that's the way it should be. And that's what the coherency rules say you have to do.
Right.
Any unit that's over 6 has to be in contact with 2 units. Wow. How
models.
brilliant is that? Yeah, 2 models. How brilliant is that? How easy
Now here's a
is that?
question.
Mhm.
What if that came over to AOS?
We're going to get to that
Okay. Yeah, I figured we would, but
because
let's titillate.
yes,
Okay.
yes. It's huge and it's very, very intelligent.
Oh God. All right, let's start cranking through this nonsense. I
Okay.
just looked at the page and like
We're not there yet.
well, we have a lot to talk about. This is gonna be a fat episode.
It is.
So
It's going to be chunky
we got to make up for
like me.
oh,
All right. So
medium husky.
next up, Beastgrave.
So yeah, we got now. Is Blade Coven the daughters?
Yeah, Daughters
Okay,
King,
yeah,
is
the
Blade
daughters of
Coven,
Cain and the
and the
new brutes.
Blurbluped orcs.
Yeah.
So a third version of orcs. Yeah, wow, they're so different and they play completely differently. Yeah, they're different orcs. Yeah.
A third version.
Yeah. You had the original ones, then you had Moloch. There's been 3 sets of orcs. So,
Oh, I guess I don't remember the original. Oh, yeah, it was like 2 hard boys and a brute or something.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah, that's right. Okay.
and then
Never
there
mind.
was the 3.
Which you can't get
brutes.
anymore, right?
Right.
Because Underworlds is like limited edition stuff apparently now.
Well, you can still play the mobs.
Yeah, but you can't buy the models.
I think you can. I don't quote me on that. I think you
Oh, live on the debate floor, fact checking. That's
can.
what we bring to you.
You've made your statement. Please prove your issue. I was channeling my inner Brandon.
To the Googler. I thought that was like a big point of contention was that
You couldn't get the original sets anymore?
all of a sudden,
So all those boxes I have in shrink wrap now have some value, don't they?
oh,
Ryan.
stop. Oh, wow. Giving yourself way too much credit. Desperately trying to justify your hoarding here.
Oh, speaking of Ryan, big shout out to Ryan. He made me a great deal on some Osiark Bone Reaper stuff.
Oh, because you need more of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bill, you can't get the original stuff anymore on the
Okay. All right.
on the
So
website.
I stand corrected. Thank you for proving your point and backing your point up with fact.
Wow. So, well, okay,
'Cause
yeah,
it's
we'll talk
great.
about the new stuff. I don't want to talk about whatever.
Yeah. Because the Daughters of Cain are amazingly
Oh, yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah, and the brutes look fantastic as well.
Yes, they do.
Everything for this game looks fantastic,
Yes.
just like Warcry, just
Yes.
like Blood Bowl, like all these
It's
games.
amazing.
It's a lack of time
Yeah, I know.
issue to
Yeah.
play. a
I
dozen
still
different games.
love Underworlds, and Pam doesn't hate it, so we play it. So
Well, good for you. You have
Yep.
a wife that plays with you.
Mhm.
I'm so happy for you right now.
please, let's not go into your proclivities with women. Okay.
All right.
We could do a show.
We could do a podcast.
Oh, I'm just kidding. Also announced were some Barnes and Noble exclusive games.
Oh, I don't know if I saw this.
Well, you should pay more attention, I guess.
Oh God.
Blitz Bowl 2 is the release date for that is September 21st. Be looking at your local Barnes and
Oh
Noble
yeah, Blitz Bowl. Okay.
for Blitz Bowl
You
season
really
2
like
or-
this.
I love that
Yeah,
game.
yeah.
Love that game. Again, it's one of those games there. Once I bought the Skaven team for Pam, anytime we want to play, let's do the Blitz Bowl. And she loves football about as much as she loves meat, and she's a vegetarian.
Oh,
So,
there you go.
yeah. But she enjoys that game. Then they're also putting out Crypt Hunters, which is an AOS kind of game. Looks like sort of a tile and card game. So I don't know a whole lot about it. We'll find out more when it comes out and I buy it.
You think this is a dip the toe in the waters for another version of Silver, or of, God, I always want to say
Yeah.
Silver Tower, but Warhammer
Warhammer
Quest?
Quest? Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think it might be a see what Barnes and Noble can do with the retailing and the marketing.
Ah.
So I do.
I still need to pick up the old 40K one that they put out.
Yeah.
Because it had some really cool models in it.
It's there at our Barnes and Noble right there at the mall. So
Okay.
go grab it because I think they're going to be pulling that when the new ones come out. Because also the Space Marine Adventures, the old one was Rise of the Necrons.
Yeah.
That's the one that has the model you want. Now they're going to do Rise of the Orcs,
Okay.
which again, don't think like there's going to be orcs in that box because, yeah, little
Cutouts.
chits for
Yeah.
the bad guys. I'm trying to think of the game, where you have like the timer in the Space Marines and the, God, I can't think of the name of the game.
What is happening?
Space Hulk. Wow. I had that scrambled egg moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of an amalgamation of that system. So it's definitely a great introduction for, a family type game, but it bears nothing on 40K. Although the sculpts are very, very nice. So.
Yeah.
Then we get into the preview that Games Workshop did a couple of weeks ago. In fact, that was the weekend we were supposed to record, I think.
Sure.
Yeah. And then also announced today is Horus Heresy Book 9 Crusade
Yep.
is coming out. So I will be ordering that right away.
Lionel Johnson himself, finally.
Lionel Johnson,
60 years after they started the Horus Heresy with Forge World, they finally finished
You're
all the
going to
Primarchs.
wrap up the Primarchs. So the first who is last.
Yep,
Mm-hmm.
as it should be.
Wow.
Hey, that's what he gets for being a fence-riding, heretic, loyalist. Whatever.
Johnson did nothing wrong. Okay,
Did he?
anyway. It was Luther. It
Yeah.
was Luther. Anyway, that should be a really interesting book to read if they delve into that whole thing of
Oh, I'm sure. they
where
will.
Luther went and where his mindset was, because they've really tied the news story to where Luther got out
Yep.
from the Rock. He's 10,000 years old. He's a real veteran of the Long War, except he's been locked up. So he's got anger issues, and he probably has some mental issues.
Yeah. Did you see on Twitter, I believe it was Louis Sugden, could be wrong, released an artwork image of the Rock. Not the Rock, I'm sorry, Caliban
Oh, wow.
in its current state. So it's like this smoldering hunk of stuff.
Blown up planetoid?
Yeah, so I don't know if that is indicative of something that's going to happen either in 30K or if it's going to be something that happens with this Crusade, Book 9, or if it's going to be something coming out for 40K. I don't know.
I'll tell you, I've always had a spot in my heart for the Dark Angels just because they're just so cool. And I'm one of the few people that loved that book, Descent of Angels.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I really liked it too. I couldn't
Yeah.
believe it got so much hate.
I know I thought it was I understand that there was so much left undone at the end of that story and that it was probably 100 pages too long. I understand that, but I felt the writing was very engaging all along. I never got bored with the story. I would love to see the Dark Angels lore get fleshed out. But where some of these questions are. You don't have to answer them all. That would be bad and boring. I don't want to know all the stuff because I want to be able to talk about it. But I would still like to know what really made Luther go over the edge like that. I know it was the taint and, blah, 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 but everybody has some taint. Why did he go totally in?
Some of us have a little more taint than others.
I am so sorry. Okay.
So I went to her link thing from
Mhm.
her artwork piece. It's all about the Book 9. It has nothing to do
Okay.
with 40K. So it's all Horus Heresy.
So,
Oh,
yeah.
no.
So in the preview, they announced Horus Heresy Book 9, and today, they announced that it will be for sale next week. Also in the Necromunda, let's just keep this train rolling. Here comes the House of Iron book and some Orlok models.
Yep.
Choo-choo.
More
Boom.
over the top good models.
Oh my gosh, yes. Then they did this incredible video for the Necron Hexmark Destroyer, and they basically did it in the theme of a spaghetti western, the Magnificent Seven. So
Oh,
they
boy.
put one guy and then the Necron Hexmark with the six guns, not a 6-gun, but six arms, 6 guns.
Right.
That's a beautiful model, and the lore behind it basically is a immortal. Was it immortal? No, a death mark that got hit by the destroyer virus and just went nuts. And I cannot wait for that model.
Yeah.
Oh my God. 6 guns. Oh, it's going to be gorgeous. Then they announced the Crusade mission pack. So for the narrative 40K crowd,
Yeah.
there will be more Crusade missions, which I'm saying yippee-ki-yay.
Right.
And I will leave that at that. And then they announced the competitive mission pack, which really struck me as odd because I thought that's what Chapter Approved was all about. But now we have more coming
Sure.
for the competitive side. So again, yippee-ki-yay. If you're going down that competitive road, life is flipping good. And if you're a TO, life is really flipping good because this gives you lots of options.
Yeah.
They also announced these things called Battle Zone boxes, which is it looks to me like a box
With a
with
battle
a
zone.
map surface and some terrain. And it's going to be a great way for you to get a table built without having to, buy the Sanctum Imperialis and all $300 of it. Here's maybe $90 worth, and you've got an edge on.
Well, that's a benefit of having smaller tables.
That's right.
Is you have to buy a little less terrain to get started. Doesn't mean you won't stop buying terrain as you get more and more, but it does mean that you can get your stuff on the table faster with a cooler looking table.
And if you're a TO for even a 32-man
Oh,
event,
God, yes.
now you've just basically said, here, it's so much easier for you now to maintain the terrain that you need. So God bless you. Warcry came out. They obviously made a very big point of downplaying the 40K in this preview and really ramping up the support for the other systems
Yeah.
because they know there's some, I'm tired of 40K. It's the same thing that happens when we release a new edition of AOS.
Sure.
The 40K people just go into their shells and cry and
No.
curl up in fetal positions because
40K fan base is very mellow,
very
reasonable.
understanding.
Yes.
And yeah. So anyway, Warcry gets a new starter box, which people have been clamoring for is a way to get into Warcry. So now there's this Into the Catacombs box, which is basically in the catacombs. It's got a double-sided mat. So one side is like a dungeon. The other side is upstairs. The terrain that you get with it, while it doesn't look as expansive as the original Warcry box, it's a smattering of great underground terrain as well as great above ground terrain. I can see a lot of crossover here on that flip map with the catacombs. I'm thinking D&D players are going to look at that and go, I need that.
Oh.
And then you set that line because they go, oh, this is a pretty cool game by itself.
Yeah.
And then, boom, you have a whole new audience. So in that starter set, you're going to see, wow, here's something weird. More Daughters of Cain. You're seeing Cainite Shadowstalkers. They're not Daughters of Cain. They're Cainite Shadowstalkers.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're also seeing, finally, the Scions of the Flame. So
Yeah.
that's a day one buy, that Warcry box. Those models are over the top.
Yeah. They're
Good
pretty
looking.
Cool. They're pretty cool.
Next up was Warhammer Underworld, and they did this in a weird order because they're ending the current season, which is Beastgrave, but they announced Arena Mortis, which is rules for multiplayer battles. Elric is using his hands to shoot himself. And then they announced Season 4 of Warhammer Underworlds, now with 100% more Seraphon, because they announced the Chameleon Skink.
That's
So-
all that team is. It's a single chameleon skink.
Yes, just one. It's all you need.
That's all you need.
He just zips around the board. He cannot be killed, and he shoots your guys.
Yeah.
It's all that. It's one model.
Channeling chameleon skinks from like 6th edition Warhammer Fantasy.
Super easy to just get into. It's a really great starter box.
Yeah.
So anyway, now we come to the two weirdest things in the preview. And this is what got my mind going. And we're going to start talking about this here.
Uh-oh.
We're going to stop and pick it up again in lore. They announced the AOS Shadow and Pain box,
Okay.
which is, what the hell? Daughters of Cain? No way.
Yeah.
And it is. And Slanesh.
Right.
That's a weird mix.
Is it though?
Keep that head in your thought in your head.
Okay. So that was a
Um,
rhetorical question. You just set
pretty
me up
much.
to look like an
I'm
idiot.
setting you up for lore.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Really cool. And just like all the others, boxes similar to this, we get a new hero model, it looks like,
Yep,
for
for
each
each.
faction, as well as probably just being a great entry point dollar-wise
You betcha.
in either one of these armies, which I think is actually, now that I think about it, popped into my head, really good because the Slanesh Demon Army start collecting box we've talked about
Yeah.
in your breakdown of all the start collecting boxes is not a good deal.
No,
It's like a $4
it's
savings
the
or
worst
something.
deal out there.
So if you got one or two of those, you
Mhm.
know, this will help you.
Yes.
And then the Daughters of Cain one, while it's really good, it's also really unusable,
Yeah.
you know, because it's the great big altar
It's
and then
the-
like 5 of the snake archer chicks
Yep.
and then a character or something like that. So
Yeah.
there's like no army bulk stuff.
yeah, and there's no
right?
rebuyability. There's only a certain number of cauldrons you're going to buy.
Yeah, it's like 2 of
And-
those and you're pretty much set.
Yeah, and so buying that box over and over again is not a thing.
Right.
And I think this is going to be a box that sells
Yeah.
out.
And if it's
Because
anything like the, what is it, Wrath and
Wrath and Rapture.
and
Mhm.
Rapture. Oh, that was also Slanesh. Wow, what is they are really trying to push that Slanesh, aren't they?
Huh. Weird. Keep that thought in your head.
But the Wrath and Rapture was not a limited buy.
Right.
You can still pick that up, which is awesome.
Yep.
Because just the Flesh Hounds and Karanak alone is like the cost of that box almost feels like. So it was like $90 for 6 models. You can pay like $50 more and get
Yeah.
Slaanesh and Khorne army.
Yeah.
Demon army. So,
So who knew? Mm-hmm.
well, yeah, there's definitely an entry point right there for Slaanesh for you.
Yeah. And I think that's been one of the biggest problems with Slaanesh is that if you had existing Slaanesh stuff, you were in great shape when the book came out.
Yeah.
If you had nothing, the entry point was so high to buy into that army.
Yeah.
And now I think between the getting started and this box is going to make a big
Yeah.
impact.
If you got a decent gaming group around you that plays a variety of armies, if you could split a Wrath and Rapture, if you could split one of these,
Mm-hmm.
and then get your hands on one or two, start collecting, and a Keeper of Secrets.
Yep.
Boom, man, you got yourself.
You've got a fantastic army. set
Yeah.
up. Yep.
For probably like $400.
Yeah.
Well, 500.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, the Greater Demons are
they're
pricey,
pricey.
but they're definitely worth it. Gorgeous kits.
Just mostly. Whoa.
Yeah. So, okay.
One of the few kits that I would like to buy just to build and paint.
Yeah, like the Bloodthirster.
Yeah.
that you did. Yeah, it's just or any of those really, like
Yeah.
because even the Great like I don't really have an inclination towards an Urgle, but that
Great Unclean one
Great
is.
Unclean is so cool looking. So, but anyways,
Then came the AOS bombshell, if you will, Broken Realms,
yeah, these are realms that are broken.
J-
Just kidding, sorry.
which some people venture to say is no change.
Yeah.
We're going to get into this in the lore, but the Broken Realms, let me just read their text. This new era-defining narrative all kicks off with Broken Realm, Marathi, the book. Whatever army you play and whomever your allegiance lies with, prepare for war as the daughters of Cain come into conflict with not only the forces of chaos, but former allies, both elven and clad in Sigmarite, i.e., Stormcast Eternals. This was a question that was asked on the tweets that we're going to get to in the lore, and I don't want to belabor it here, but keep that note in your thinking place, because just the very name of it, Broken Realms, and the fact that Marathi is book 1 of this, God knows however big set.
Okay.
So think Psychic Awakening,
Yes.
think Cicatrix Maledictum,
Right.
but for the mortal realms.
Right.
So should we take a quick break and move into creation?
Let's do it.
All right.
Warrior, build me an army worthy of Mordor.
That must mean creation.
You know what the irony of that is?
We haven't done doodly with Middle Earth.
Yeah. Such a sweet Middle Earth entry, and then
And
yeah, no.
I think we have to face the fact that we're terrible hobbyists.
Oh yeah.
Across
Well,
the
I mean, just
board.
terrible people in
Yeah.
general.
It's a good point. Yeah. Good point. So do you want to go first or you want me to go first?
I'll throw out my
Okay.
quick little hobby jaunt.
All right.
I have been painting Black Templars.
And incredibly well. I'm not joking when I say those are superior models painted. They are brilliant.
Don't know if I would go that far. I think you are having a stroke.
No.
but
I will. I tell you what. I have all the new photos stuff set up. I will take pictures, and we will let the listeners decide. If
Well, we
they're
got to
good.
finish the decals first.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
but yeah, they passed the 30-foot test. You know.
I think they passed the 3-inch test as well. They're really nice.
Yeah, so I finally knuckled down and decided Templars are going to be the way I go. I mean, it helps that I got some really sweet decal sheets from the Unrelenting Brush. They're fantastic.
Those decals are just over the top good.
Yeah, so that helped. So I started painting them. I tried Abaddon Black because it's like what everybody does with their Black Templars. They use Abaddon Black as
Mhm.
the base. And my problem with Abaddon Black is like, it's almost too dark.
Yeah.
It washes out all the detail unless you do over-the-top edge highlighting to really bring it back.
And that's it. That's where it usually, to me, that's where it usually fails, because you have to do over the top edge highlighting
right.
that makes them look toy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So instead, I based them with Corvus Black.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and I was a big fan of Corvus Black when I had used it in small areas. But once I painted an entire Primaris with it, I was like, oh, wow, this is not black at all.
No.
This is very gray.
Yeah.
I was like, this might not work. I was like, well, let me run with it, see where I get. So then I busted out like Eshin Gray or even like Administratum Gray
Mm-hmm.
to start doing edge highlights. I could not do them. Could not get the edge highlights to work. So if you're somebody who's done painting videos and you listen to this show, a tip, if you will, when you're trying to create something that speaks to novice painters and people just starting out and getting into it, I think you need to do a better job explaining like the paint consistency and technique of the edge highlight. Just saying, I'm going to get the paint down to a skim milk and then drag the side of my brush along. It doesn't translate well when you actually first start trying to do edge highlights. It's really difficult because I was finding it was hard to get the paint off my brush onto the model until I watered my paint down to the point where, I mean, it was like
more than you thought you should have.
Yeah, it looked
Yeah.
like Kool-Aid.
Right.
You know, it was water with that had a little pigment in it almost. And that was the only way I could get the paint off.
Yeah.
But then the problem I ran into was that if I wasn't extremely careful, it would blob out
Go everywhere. Yeah.
You know how you have condensation on the side of a can, right? Those water droplets, and if you put your finger even remotely towards them, like the water jumps out
Yes.
and blobs on your
Yeah.
finger.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of what the water was blobbing out of the brush onto the model. So instead of leaving a clean line, sometimes it would blob out. So I guess, at that point I had my paint too thin down.
Yeah.
But it's like the only way I could get it off the brush. It was really frustrating to try to like figure this thing out. And then I would kind of finally get to that point. Oh, and then like the color wasn't popping. So you watch these videos and they're like, I'm going to put Eshin Gray over black on an edge highlight. And you watch it and you can see in the video, okay, he just did a highlight. And then I would do it and I was like, I cannot see that color.
It
on the
doesn't.
black. Like my eyes are not picking that up. And I almost have to jump up to an extreme version of a gray to see this. So long story short, was not working. So I said, screw it. I'm going to try a different approach. And I just took Administratum Gray and I heavily dry brushed the whole model with a makeup brush and made sure to really hit the edges as much as I could. So it was like kind of an extreme highlight
Yeah.
with this dry brush. And then I just washed the whole thing with Nuln Oil
And got the black back.
and got it darkened way back down, especially with the Corvus Black. It brought it way back down.
Yep.
The stray brush marks essentially over the big flat parts of the armor kind of started to wash out a little bit.
Yep.
So it, and my big edge highlights looked good.
Yes.
Like passable. I mean, it's definitely, it's not going to win any awards, but it's tabletop ready, and it was fairly quick. I think, we're going to blast through the army hopefully later today with an airbrush
Yeah.
to get the Corvus Black down. Cause that is tedious having to sit there and paint basically the whole model with that coat and then go
Yep.
into the details. So
In fact, I'm looking up right now. I'm not ignoring you. I'm actually looking up to see if they have Corvus Black in the air range.
oh no. I
In
don't
which
think-
case we will run and go get yeah, they have Corvus Black air.
Really?
So yeah, we're going to go get some of that because just thinning it
Yeah.
is such a pain in the butt. We might as well just go buy it to coat the
Sweet.
rest of the
There we
army.
go.
Yeah.
All right. And so anyways, yeah, did that. And then the other big thing that I kind of did that I picked up. So on the white, on the shoulder pads, and then,
Yes.
on the Primaris guys have like thigh plates, or
Mhm.
I don't know exactly how to describe them, but they're great spots to put transfers and stuff if you
Yes.
want to.
Yes.
And also make color pop, especially on Black Templar, which is a primarily black
Yeah.
model. It's nice to give it a little extra something. I primed it gray. I primed all of them using the Mechanicus standard gray
Yep.
primer, which I'd never used before. I've always hated gray
Oh,
as a primer because
it.
I always felt like I couldn't tell what was primed and what was
Yeah,
not.
yeah. That's
But the
always
reality
issue.
is that if you got some proper lighting, you can tell what's been primed with that versus what's just base plastic.
It loses the plastic shine.
Sure.
But that's your only real indicator,
Right.
You know.
And I was like, okay, well, I've tried Black Templar over the years before, priming them black. I've tried it priming them white. It doesn't really work either way. I'll try the gray because some of the guys at the shop who are superior painters to me have talked about how gray is a great base.
Yes.
So I tried it. And then for the shoulder pads, the white, I just took pallid witch flesh. I watered it down and I just did a layer after layer.
Yep.
And this was also kind of like a test in patience because I took it at first and I did like a 50-50 or even maybe like a 70-30, not contrast medium, Lamian medium
Yeah.
to pallid witch flesh to really, really thin it down. And I went over the shoulder pads and I was finding that it would create ripples and waves. It was still way too thick.
Yeah.
And we had talked about how water breaks the pigment down
Yep.
and doesn't always work well. So sometimes you want to use the medium. And I was like, man, this is not giving me the result that I want. So I actually just took water and the pallid witch flesh and I just watered it way down. And I found that that actually worked better. But you got to be
Weird.
patient. Yeah. And the video, God, I wish I could remember the video I watched where the guy was painting Templars. And he talked about like when you paint that white, it's very similar to contrast. You go over it with the brush and you don't touch it again.
Yeah.
You'll let it dry because if you go back over, you're going to break that skin and it will show
Yeah.
with white
Yes.
big time, like whites and yellows.
You
and
can't
stuff
get
like
away with
that.
anything with white.
Right. So I just had to be patient with it. And I would do a really thin down layer, let it dry, go back. And I did it maybe 5 layers on the
Wow.
shoulders over
Yeah.
the gray. And then I took, I just like in the video he was showing, I took the contrast skeleton horde and I slathered it on the shoulder pad with one brush and then immediately with another brush that had some water in it, washed it off. And so what it does is it leaves like this aged yellowish stain on it.
Yeah.
But if you wash enough of it off, it's not overwhelming. But
Yeah.
it gives it
Yeah.
a bit of weathering. And I know that like when you see Black Templars, generally they have a very clean, cooler looking, because it has like usually a bluish
Yeah.
hue to it on their white.
Yes.
And it's a very clean look. These guys don't have that. Mine have more of an aged parchment,
Yeah.
almost appearance to the shoulder pad. And I think once we put
I think it works.
I think once,
Yeah.
especially with the red weapons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
because it's all warm coloring. And that's the thing also about Corvus Black is that there's no tint.
Right.
It's just a very dark gray. There's no
Yeah.
blue, there's no purple, there's no
Yep.
anything to it. So you can, depending on which direction you go with the highlight colors or whatever you want to call them, it can shift the overall tone of the model to a warm feel or a cool
Right.
feel. I'm talking like I know anything about paints and colors, but that's kind of like
But
how
you do.
kind of.
You're obviously using it. So
Yeah. Well, I stumbled my way to a finish line. here.
Okay.
Let's
and
not
it
get
worked.
crazy. So, but yeah, I mean that. So overall, it has kind of like this warmer, Black Templar look as opposed to some of the
The
ones
cold
that-
blue.
Yeah, and it's definitely not the hyper detail. I don't want to say, because one thing you always see with Raven Guard and Black Templars and Black Legion and anybody that has basically black power armor
Mhm.
is they always have like these really extreme edge highlights,
Yeah.
you know, and it almost has to look like a very clean model in
Mhm.
order to make the detail pop.
Yes.
And I think that I managed to make some of the detail pop
Yeah.
by just doing a much more simplified look. I don't know. We'll see.
It's
I'll get a squad done and maybe I'll throw up some pictures. I
yes.
still got to get, like I said, I bought these really nice transfers and I wanted to make sure I did them right. I've never
Mhm.
done transfers before. And I know it's very easy to end up having them look shiny. You know,
Yeah,
they have
well-
like a shiny finish. So yeah, I wanted to make sure I did that right.
What
and then
we'll do is we'll take the shoulder pad and we'll paint it with the gloss.
Okay.
which will give it the whole thing, because you don't want to do just the area of the decal. Do the whole shoulder pad with gloss.
Okay.
Let it dry. Put the decal on it. So now everything's shiny.
Okay.
Put some of that stuff that makes the decal suck down really good. And then once that's all dry, go over the top with Lamy and medium to just drop it back to that same matte that it always has been. And you won't see that shiny, that edge of
Really?
Yep. You'll see.
Okay. Cool.
It'll work. Trust me.
Yeah, and then I got to figure out some kind of basing. I don't know exactly what I want to do, but and then boom, that's it. And then just crank through.
I think My Little Pony bases.
Yeah, that's what
would
I was
work.
thinking. Or
Pokemon bases.
yeah,
Yeah. What will-
Yu-Gi-Oh. It's time to duel. Sorry.
What I'll do is we'll go get some Pokemon cards, or whatever you like, Yu-Gi-Oh or something like that. We'll get like a 1-inch punch. I have a 1-inch punch,
Okay.
and we'll just punch out toppers for the bases and just set them on that. That'll finish them off really nice.
Pogs.
Oh, perfect.
Start
Wow.
using Pogs as bases.
There you go. See? This is why people tune in, is to get
Yep.
ideas like this. Next
Hot.
thing you know,
Hot off the press.
we're going to see people like Vince showing you how to buff up your pogs,
Yep.
make them better for your bet. Yeah,
Yep.
we just started it right here today.
There
Beautiful.
you go. You're
All right.
welcome, people.
Okay.
We do this for you.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. All right.
Yeah, that's been my hobby.
It's awesome. I mean, like I said, those look gorgeous. I was nervous as hell when you said you were going to put pictures up on the chat,
Oh,
because
yeah.
I was like, if anybody jumps on your set,
Hashtag skeleton. King
yeah,
all
if
over
anybody
again.
jumped on them, I was going to be angry as hell.
Yep.
And then you put them up there, and I was like, anybody says anything bad about those, I'm going to crush them. And then now seeing them in person, they are freaking awesome.
Yeah.
They're
So
gorgeous. They're gorgeous.
get an army done. I can't wait to paint that Redemptor Dreadnought.
Oh, yeah.
That's really gonna look cool.
That's going to be, whew.
Such a sweet model.
Yes.
Oh, and painting these guys, because I'm painting the Indominus set, one of the Indominus sets I have. The other set I have not assembled. I will be painting that in sub-assemblies, because, wow, the models are a pain to get, like, into certain areas and stuff.
Yeah.
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 Won't be doing that again. So,
I hear
and
ya.
these are just the assault intercessors. I haven't even started on those crazy characters.
Yeah.
Like the Judicator or Judicator or whatever he is.
Judicator, yeah.
Yeah. I got to just sitting there staring at that model. I was like, oh my God.
You know, there's so much detail there.
Yeah.
But hey, you do what you want and step away.
Yep.
The when I built the captain, I shaved off the shield. I didn't put the Necron body on there,
Oh yeah.
and I shaved off all the stuff that looked like a Necron body belonged there. So yeah, I haven't figured out what I'm gonna put on him yet, but it's gonna be something else. So
Drukhari.
yeah,
You
maybe
need to get some Drukhari bits because
Yeah.
salamanders not big fans
not big fans
of the
No.
Eldar of Darkness.
Not too much. No.
Yeah.
All right, are you done?
Yeah, for now.
All right, good deal. So for me, like I said, I've been suffering lately, so I didn't
Yeah.
do any painting whatsoever.
And yet I came over here and you still had hobby done. So you've managed to accomplish something in the last 30 days.
Well, yeah, what I did was I built 50 points of salamanders. Well, I actually built like 55 because I cheated on my crusade points.
Oh, Bill.
Well, I paid the RP to increase it by 5 so that I could work in what I wanted. So yeah, okay. Anyway, I built a bunch of 40K scatter terrain. You know, I took those armored Munitorium armored container things.
Mm-hmm.
I had all the containers themselves built and the boxes and the barrels. So I took all the boxes and barrels and made about, I don't know, 10 or 12 small bases of just stacks of barrels and stacks of boxes, just little scatter terrain or perhaps victory point objectives for kill team.
Sure.
You know, just generic stuff. I didn't want to make like one big supply dump, but you could throw them all together and make one big supply dump.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So just some scatter terrain, and then I painted all the containers so that they have a containery look to them. Now I just have to weather them up and dirty them up, get them onto a base of some kind to make some more effective 40K terrain. Then I got weak,
Oh,
as I often do. I was listening to the independent characters. I heard Justin Kiefer talking about the Vortex paint mixer.
oh yeah, yeah. This thing.
Anybody that's been listening for a while knows that I have gone through a whole bunch of different phases of my life with paint mixing. I built this great drill-based paint spinner after seeing Vallejo and a couple of other companies saying that they really recommend you spin your paints, not shake them. The shaking just puts air in them. It just basically makes air bubbles, which, it's not super effective at agitating the pigment itself and blah, 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 and getting it back into suspension and chemical term, blah, blah, blah. So they have these Heathrow Scientific amazing vortex generator
Yeah.
devices on Amazon. And Justin bought one, and he basically went on about how it changed his life. A paint mixer shaker changed his life. Justin is an amazing painter. He is over the top good. Hell, he teaches for CK Studios, so he must be good. So I figured if he says it was cool, it was time to take the plunge. So I took the plunge. I got it in yesterday.
Yeah.
And tried it with a couple of the contrast paints that had separated into like 6 different layers of pigment.
Yeah.
And within like 10 seconds of putting it on there, it was one color. It was completely shaken. It is life altering. I hate to say it, but it is.
Yeah. It's been something sitting here watching you play with your vibrator in front of me. A little awkward, but the end result, I suppose, is worth it.
I'm going to make a picture, an image, and I'm going to call it Shake My Taint.
There you go. Yeah, just the sheer look of glee as you stick your finger in it and it.
Well, you get that new Necron Glow, the whatever they call that,
Yeah.
the glow paint, where you let it sit for 5 minutes and it separates into a yellow component and a green component. And you just put it on that little thing, and next thing you know, you have what it's supposed to look like. And I'm just like, that's so cool. Makes me wanna cry.
The Apothecary White
Yes.
contrast, and then we did the Balthazar.
Nazdrag yellow.
Well,
Yeah, Balthazar gold.
yeah, because the
Mhm.
metallics, the base metallics, not the layers,
Yeah.
the base metallics are so heavy with pigment,
Separate.
they will. It's mud.
Yeah.
If you let it sit for too long. So it took a little bit longer than the
Yeah.
others,
Oh, yeah.
but it got it going. So
It did. It made it into a cohesive gold mass rather than
Yep.
a lot of binder on top and a lot of pigment on the bottom. Yeah, so if you're looking into that, they're on Amazon. We don't have an affiliate link or anything, so just go to Amazon, look for the Heathrow Scientific Mini Vortex. You don't need the big one. The big one's too much. I mean, that's for labs. That's 300 and some odd bucks.
Oh,
That's for lab
yeah.
work. The little mini Vortex is everything you'll need for paint.
That's when you want to put your beakers on it.
Yeah.
Beakers, people. Beakers.
I want to do my beaker voice. I'm not going to.
Scrubs reference.
Yeah. I was thinking Muppets.
Oh, yeah.
Beaker.
Oh, yeah. Beaker.
So yeah, between building salamanders, building all the Necrons, building all that terrain and painting it, that was my hobby. And I started moving around the hobby room because I'm going to demolish the hobby room.
Yeah.
So I made a shelf for my painted models.
And hopefully you'll get some more of that.
Hopefully do a lot
'Cause
more.
You actually have a lot more completed stuff that needs to be on display for motivational purposes, I believe.
Yes.
So,
I didn't move the Osiarchs over there because the AI planes took up a lot more room than I thought they would. I may have to move the planes to a different.
what you need to do, I just realized is the laser cannons on your Astraeus are crooked.
Yes, there.
Yeah, sorry.
Resin.
Yeah. You need to do shelves for games. So imagine like a whole shelf for Aeronautica Imperialis, a whole shelf for, that's generally how
Osiarchs
people,
and-
your
yeah.
Bone Reapers, your Night Haunt shelf, your
Yep.
soon to be Salamanders.
Yep.
Uh,
Well, ultimately, what's going to happen is that shelf over there is going to get completely replaced by 2 Detolfs,
right, yeah. You're
so
talking
that I
about-
can actually, display all those armies and have some fun with it. And because right now that shelf is nothing more than a catch-all for all my junk, and I have to stop that. And I'm going to demolish the workbenches, the 2 separate workbenches for hobby and paint that are in here. That's going to go away in favor of one big long workbench that I can sort of, it's still going to be separated, but I want to be able to have more basic room, because the way these workbenches are designed, they're more for garage type, woodworking workbench. So
Yeah.
I want to make something a little more amenable to like the Dremel drill press and the Dremel moto tool or the jigsaw and all that stuff for when I'm doing terrain and what have you.
What about a vent type system for airbrushing?
I was thinking about that. I found out that in order to cut into the front facade of the house, I have to go through the brickwork. So it makes a lot more sense to get the window adapter for the air thing and just put it on here, on this table somewhere and deal with it that way.
Okay.
Because I have that small airbrush thing that the $99 one from Amazon, but I wanted to get one of the bigger actual airbrush things with the industrial type motor.
Yeah, like a restaurant type.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And blower, but the venting has to be done just right.
Yeah, because you sit here and airbrush inside of a room for too long.
Yeah,
it'll F you up.
It gets thick in here sometimes.
I've done that before. A long time ago, I painted, me and a buddy of mine painted a High Elf army for 8th edition Warhammer Fantasy in 2 days using nothing but airbrushes. And we did it in his garage. And there was no ventilation. Oh my God, my lungs hurt so bad. My eyes hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was rough.
Well, the thing is, it's atomizing paint. It's getting in the air, so I don't care. You're breathing it in.
Yeah.
And it's getting on every surface, and that would include things like your eyeballs.
Yep.
And yeah, you don't see it because it's, atomized. It's very, very small. So, yeah.
Yeah, my lungs might very well have a nice thin coat of
Two thin
Stormhost silver.
coats?
Yeah, 2 thin
Two
coats
thin
of Stormhost silver on them.
Very nice.
It's all right. Covers all the cigarettes.
Speaking of which, another creation shout out, Duncan Rhodes Painting Academy put out a video the other day of the 6 things.
Yeah, I meant to
wish-
watch this. I'm going to watch because
Oh.
I'm subscribed. I just haven't had a chance to watch it yet.
Watch it. He put it out on YouTube for everybody, so you
Oh,
don't
okay,
have to be
cool.
a subscriber.
Yeah.
So it's on YouTube, and it's great because he shows the first model he ever painted when he was 11.
Oh, nice.
And then he breaks down, here's everything I did wrong. Here's the 6 things I wish I knew. Most of them are the basics. But it's like he says, you don't know what you don't know until someone shows you.
Right.
And he talks about how, like, when I was a kid, everyone told me, oh, you really need to use a palette with your paint. And he was like, okay, I will. So he went and got himself a ceramic tile, and he took the paint out of the pot, put it on the tile, spun it around a little bit, and then put it on the model.
Yep.
So they told him to use a palette, but not how to use a
that is
palette.
huge.
And
Yeah.
why you use a palette. And he goes into, this is a wet palette. And oh my gosh, something else that I probably, let's cover it in this show. Okay. Wet palettes and metallic paints.
Oh, okay.
Don't use your wet palette with metallic paints. If you're using the baking paper, the very thin tissue paper with your metallics, okay? Helpful hint. I say always use a wet palette because I live in the desert.
Oh,
And if you don't
yes.
use a wet palette, you take the paint out of the pot, you put it on a palette, it's dry.
Yep.
So definitely we have to use wet palettes around here. So, but if you use it with metallics, what happens is a lot of the metallic leaches underneath that tissue paper, that really thin parchment paper, or whatever you want to call it, baking paper, and it will get into your sponge underneath, and then it starts to affect all your other paints, plus it starts to grow bacteria, and it starts to stink, and life starts
It's
to...
like stripper glitter. of the
Yeah.
hobby. Yep.
Yeah, it's you don't want it. However, if you want a wet palette that will handle metallics, there is a company called Masterson, and they make wet palettes for artists. They come in all sizes, and there's some hobby sizes, and they make very, very good wet palettes. Their sponges are phenomenal. They're yellow. They're the crepe stuff. They're amazingly good at holding water and what have you, but they're not like the ones with the Army Painter or the Red Grass Games palette where they have the built-in stuff to stop the mold and the smell. But what they make is this paper for wet palettes. And it's a very thick, and they call it acrylic paper because it's designed for use with acrylic paints on wet palettes. And it's much, much thicker than that tissue stuff that comes with the red grass and the army painter stuff. So if you're going to use metallics in your wet palette, definitely grab some of that. You can grab a pack of that paper for $10. And then if you grab the big pieces, you can cut it to size for your whatever wet palette you use. And they're fantastic. They hold the water better. They don't allow the paint to leach so much as that thin tissue stuff. So I consider them to be a lot better. But when you use the Masterson wet palette paper, you do have to soak them in hot water for a little bit before you put them in your wet palette to get them ready and to open up the pores so that the water can pass back and forth.
Yeah.
But that's how you would use metallics on a wet palette without messing up your sponge underneath.
Yeah, the whole system, basically.
Yeah. So just a helpful tip for those of you out there that have been struggling and hating metallic paints on a wet palette because they leach so much. Shall we call creation over?
I think that's it.
All right, when we come back, we're going to do the lore. But before that, we're probably going to run to the store and grab some Corvus Black.
Yeah. Oh, Bill.
I don't make mistakes often,
Yeah.
but when I make them, it's all the time.
Right. 60% of the time you screw up every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is Sparta!
Well, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, it
Did
could
we not
also
just
be
hear
the
it, like-
intro to the lore segment that we just went.
Yeah, heard it like 5 minutes ago when
Oh,
we started
God.
not recording and talking.
Yes, we started the lore segment without including you guys.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I'm an idiot. So, anyway, we're gonna go back and talk about all the lovely things that we just talked about.
Yep.
When I first put out the tweet that said, I'm sorry, but we're not going to be able to do this show because I was feeling kind of sick, I also said, what would you like us to discuss? And we got some really great ideas. Our buddy Ryan put out a really good tweet, and Zach Mills and Scott S. put out some good things. But the one we want to do in this show, we'll get to those in the next show.
Yeah.
The one we want to do in this show sort of dovetails with what we talked about from the preview show and where they're going with the AOS stuff. And it comes from Alexander Nygaard, who is at Darth Alec on the Twitterverse. You may know him from such great things as revamping the entire End Times tomes to AOS scenarios.
Yep.
A mighty undertaking. And he's also, running events and doing all kinds of stuff. He's a force in the community and the hobby, and an all-around good guy. And his questions were, what are you hoping will come from the Shattered Realms? How will it be inspired by and or differ from the Psychic Awakening for 40K? What characters are we hoping they will focus on? And is it leading to 3rd edition? And I think that fourth question is pretty much a no-brainer. Yes,
Yeah, probably.
this is going to become 3rd ed.
Yeah. But AOS has been out for 6 months now, so it seems
Yeah.
right that would be on the
We
12th
should-
edition.
Yeah, we should bump up another notch.
Yep.
My view of the Shattered Realm is when you look at that little teaser text they put out, it becomes kind of obvious when they say that the Daughters of Cain come into conflict with not only the forces of chaos, but former allies, both Elven and clad in Sigmarite.
Yep.
So it pretty much seems to me like Marathi is the first book, and the Daughters of Cain are kind of breaking from the Order Alliance.
This will be the dissolution of order.
I think this is the dissolution of all the Grand Alliances.
Okay.
I think the Grand Alliances are becoming a structure that is limiting them both in the lore and on the tabletop. I believe you and I are not necessarily the sharpest knives in the drawer, but we can see that Sigmar is a lousy leader.
Yeah.
I think these other, gods can see that too, like Alariel and Marath. Well, Marathi's not a god, but Teclis and Tyrion.
Sure.
Sigmar has basically taken every gift that he's gotten from every one of these gods, be it the Duarden, be it the elves, what have you, and he's basically turned it into crap.
Yeah, he screws up everything he touches.
Yes.
He really does. He's a very divisive figure.
Yeah.
The whole relationship between him and Nagash alone
Yeah.
shows you that he's not bright.
That he doesn't make he's not great at judging character.
Yeah.
And-
You know, for him to get so upset that Nagash betrayed him again.
Again.
It's
Yeah.
like, really, bro? Like, you didn't see this coming?
It
from,
happens
like, the
once
first
or
half?
twice every age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be like, oh, Nagash betrayed me, and now I have to turn my back on all of my worshipers. And then when I finally do go back out there, oh, what do you know? They all turned on me. Well, I guess I got to kill them. It's like, whatever.
Yeah,
Clown.
it's, I'm not saying that. I mean, the game is Age of Sigmar.
Yeah.
He is going to remain a major player. But I don't believe that the Order faction itself has a strong enough central figure when in reality, the elves have their own concerns. Slaanesh is coming back. I don't know how to portray that picture any more clearly.
Yeah.
That everything is pointing to Slaanesh breaking free very soon with Archeon's help.
Yep.
So,
It's time for the elves to batten down the hatches.
yeah, and they're going to have a few more things on their plate other than, oh, Sigmar wants to guard some of these storm vaults that he, by the way, hid away and then now are exposed for all the world to see. I truly believe Sigmar does everything with good intentions, but when you're a deity figure, your miscalculations are sort of,
Exponentially worse.
yeah, when you do a
Yeah.
boo-boo, it's a big boo-boo.
Yeah, not everybody gets the luxury of being Nagash, and your followers are just mindless
Yeah,
followers anyways, right?
Right.
Like, and I think in our personal chat, somebody made the comment of like, well, Nagash, I think it was Ryan, said that Nagash's followers willingly follow him or something like that. That's not true. All Arkan and Manfred and Nafarada and all
Yeah.
these people are just reimaginings of what they used to be in
Yeah.
the old world. He just recreated them from his memories, kind of like the Seraphon.
mm-hmm.
So they don't have the independence that they used to. Of course,
And
they have to follow him.
Even still, they're bound to his will, even if they
Yeah.
were independent.
Yeah, there's no way Manfred's ever getting away from him this time.
Right.
So,
So,
You know.
yeah, it's he has a lock on his group. Alariel has the Sylvaneth to worry about. Teclis
and the
and
whole realm of
Tyrion.
life. And that,
Yeah.
yeah, that's another thing too, right? Is like these deities are in charge of like a whole realm
Yeah.
that they're trying to fight chaos out of. And it's like,
Yeah.
how do I constantly deal with essentially the never ending invasion of chaos
Mhm.
in my own realm? And I also have to constantly come help you.
And yeah, and then you send me these hosts of Stormcast who almost always go in and do more harm than good.
Yeah.
Look at what they did for Alariel. That was great. Thank you so much. You opened my entire plane of existence to, I don't know, Nurgle, the guy I was trying to fight.
Yep.
Yeah, that was some great work there, buddy.
Yeah. Well done.
And really, wherever they go, they leave it worse than when they started. Add to this, Sigmar's main force is falling apart from the inside. There's
Yeah.
something wrong with the process that makes them. And, these other gods are looking around going, you're not, yeah, you have a great personality and you're fun to hang out with and all. But really, dude, why don't you go to the concert by yourself and we'll be over here, Yeah. So,
Well, yeah. And it's because once again, he was gifted something by
Gringy.
Gringny, and he screwed that up.
Yeah.
And like even Gringny was like, dude, all right, I'm out. Like,
Yeah.
Which sucks because he's the only remaining Duarden deity.
Yeah.
And he's turned his back on his people.
And gone into exile basically because of all this.
Yeah.
Now, maybe he's working on perfecting it. Who knows? Which, I mean, I really hope for the sake of the story and the narrative, I really hope they fix the Stormcast.
Or what if he's creating his own version of Duarden? Because I mean, the elves get to create their own cool stuff in their image, right?
Wow.
But Grungni hasn't done it. The dwarves haven't. I mean, yeah, I guess you should say the Fire Slayers are in the image
Yeah.
of Grimnir, but Grimnir's not around anymore.
Yeah, to appreciate them.
You know, and the KO don't care. They're, I mean, other than a small percentage of them, they're essentially atheists. You know, they've turned their backs on.
It's true.
Yeah, I mean, they're not atheists. They recognize the gods do exist, but they don't care about them.
Yeah.
You know?
And really, what would Grungni think of Fire Slayers
Yeah.
as mercenaries and Caradhran as mercenaries?
Yeah, that's another thing too, right?
Does that fit his?
As the guy that's always been one of the right-hand mans of Sigmar, it's like my children will, for a couple bucks, slaughter their own kind for chaos if it means getting a fat paycheck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where has my legacy gone? So
Yeah.
maybe he is making, or he's out protecting the real old school
The
dwarves.
dispossessed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
dwarves.
well, they've essentially just been rolled into Sigmar's army.
Yeah.
Under the Free Cities
So-
stuff. I don't know. But, you know, it all comes back to this unraveling of order. Like,
Mhm.
order, you know, and they've kind of gone through great lengths to say, like, well, just because you're in order doesn't mean you're good. And I made the point to you of like, well, okay, well, just because you're in chaos, does that mean you're evil? Like, well, why can't we have a good chaos army? You
And
know, a
that's-
benevolent chaos army.
You know, when you sit right back and look at it, Archeon is fighting for order.
The ultimate order.
Yeah.
So is Nagash.
Exactly.
You know?
I mean, they really want a structured, rigid society that functions well.
yeah.
Just happens to function under their rulership.
And destruction is chaos.
Yeah, destruction is
they
the
don't care. They just
main
wanna
bad
punch.
guys. They just want to see things broken.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, to me, my hope for Shattered Realms is that they do away with this Grand Alliance stuff and elves fight for elven needs. Dwarden fight for Dwarden things. And, you know, the cities of Sigmar will fight for Sigmar. There's no, he will have the Free Cities and he will have his Stormcast.
Right.
I mean, they will stay loyal to him no matter what. But I think the limitations that Grand Alliance structure narratively sort of limits what you can do. Now, in the game, obviously, the limitation right now is if I'm rocking up with my Khorne army, I cannot take 400 points of Fireslayer allies. When in the lore that they're painting, if they paid enough, they could have
Yeah, except that
Fireslayer allies.
you can take Fire Slayer allies with that whole.
As Khorne?
Yeah, because it's in
Really?
it's in one of the books. You can take like
The
allies.
mercenary companies?
Mercenary companies, yeah, all that junk.
I think that was an aborted attempt at getting somewhere that didn't really pan out.
I guess I don't know. It's a thing
It
because I
is.
see like order armies that happen to have Chaos Marauders because Chaos Marauders are super cheap and efficient for their points and stuff. And I've always hated that aesthetic. Like,
Yeah, it makes zero sense.
yeah, to me, okay. Here's a thing you could do, right? If you really want to embrace this mercenary-esque thing,
Mm-hmm.
bring back Dogs of War.
Yeah. Yeah.
Make Dogs of War a thing. It doesn't have to be Dogs of War per se, but
Right.
bring something that's Dogs of War inspired to
Yeah.
the game. And now, especially in the Mortal Realms, you could really crank that up because it was so cool seeing, well, these spearmen came from this part of the old world and these handgunners came from this part of the old world. So they all have their very distinct look, but they're all going to work together as mercenaries. You could, I mean, the limit of that is almost non-existent now in
Yeah.
the Mortal Realms because not only could these cavalry come from this city, but it could be from the realm of fire.
Yeah.
So they look crazy in this way and all
Yeah.
this other stuff, and but they're all tied together because they're mercenaries.
Yeah.
And that to me, and fine, they could work for everybody.
Sure.
But this idea that to me is just kind of lazy that like, oh, I can squeeze skinks into my Daughters of Cain army or well, or not even that. Like I can take skinks in my goblin army,
Yeah.
or sorry, Gloomspite army, or I can take some KO Arcanaut Company in my Slaanesh army. It's just, it looks stupid on the table.
Yeah.
It doesn't tell a story. I've always hated that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's very competitive, but
Yeah.
it sort of blasts away any sort of immersion in the
Yeah.
world.
It's like, why are we writing all these novels, and why is the first half of the rule book all lore and all this? If we're just
Yeah.
going to immediately push the eject
Immediately
button
say,
on
yeah,
that.
no, that doesn't apply anymore.
Yeah, so that we can have like hyper competitive, because the game isn't competitive enough.
Yeah.
We need to really blur the lines
Yeah.
or erase them altogether.
Sure. Why not? So, yeah, I mean, to me, that whole Grand Alliance structure, I understand that it sort of made sense when the game first rolled out. The books, the index needed to be something, and then that carried forward. You were either Order, or you were Chaos, or you were... But now, the way the stories are going, the elves are going to have a lot more to worry about. Sigmar is going to look at the release of Slaanesh and go, well, darn, now there's 4, and golly, that's going to make things harder. Whereas the elves are like, no, you don't get it. He's coming for us.
Yeah, us
Or she.
specifically.
And with an axe to grind, because, we may have done that to it. So, yeah, we need help.
Yeah.
And Sigmar is going to be like, well, yeah, but Phoenicium needs some help too. So I'm going to send a couple of storm hosts there, and I'll send you, I'll send you, the Hallowed Knights. They won't do anything wrong. Yeah, okay.
I'll send Joe my old Liberators and Paladins.
Yeah.
They don't work
They're
anymore.
overcosted
Yeah,
anyway.
they're terrible. Nobody plays that stuff. Here you go.
You can feed them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it just seems like the
Yeah.
structure no longer.
Well, I think it's also a bit
off.
of a keyword holdover from 40K too, because
Yeah.
it was working really well in 40K to have like Imperium,
Sure.
Chaos, Eldari, Orc, and when they essentially rewrote a rule system for fantasy,
Yeah.
obviously you take something that
Sure.
might be working elsewhere, and that's what got the ball rolling. But
Mhm.
now the Mortal Realms are fleshed out more,
Yep.
and the game is becoming its own thing. Yeah, maybe they will get away from some of that, potentially.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it as a methodology, and if they're going to follow the Psychic Awakening format, which I don't think they're going to be able to follow the idea of each, we're going to have X amount of books, and they're going to go into, this book is going to plus up Seraphon and Slaanesh, and the next book is going to do orcs and spider goblins,
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to follow that formula. I think these books are going to be more centered on major characters, i.e. gods. Marathi being the first one, this kind of eases you into it. This may just be this storyline where she throws off the mortal coils. See what I did there? Kind of a snake thing, the coils. Yeah. Anyway, don't look at me like that, man. She
why.
throws off those mortal coils and becomes a true goddess. And she now has a group of people, a whole bunch. And she's kind of got to be the flag waver for Cain. So,
Or herself.
or, herself, or, I think she makes it with the help of Cain. I don't know.
Cain's
Whatever they
gone.
want to do.
Cain's dead, baby. Cain's dead.
There's still fragments everywhere. So, but, she now gets to be a major player. And this
Sure.
book may just be that first inkling of she has her own agenda, and it doesn't fall nicely into order versus chaos versus destruction. No, it's my daughters against the freaking world because the world is trying to kill us. And I think, the next book could very well be, Grungni. And he comes back and he looks at all the dwarves and goes, y'all are a bunch of idiots. Now, everybody get in this room and we're going to have a quick chat. And by the way, I'm the only one talking.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know, but it seems to me that it would make for a lot easier narrative, easier books to write, as well as it will loosen up a restriction on the game that isn't really that big of a deal right now, but going forward, because we are heading into a new edition and we don't know what that brings, it may be very well that there's a new set of keywords that we have to look at.
I think the deciding factor in all of that is Malarian.
Really?
Yeah. So Malarian owes nothing to Sigmar. He
Good
owes
point.
nothing to anybody.
It's true.
And the other elven gods have been doing their own thing. They've not mentioned him really. He's been in the realm of shadow, running the realm of shadow, and nobody has a clue what's going on in there. Even Chaos is lost.
Yeah.
The Skaven have tried to make some inroads, and that hasn't panned out well for them. Sigmar has like no information really. It's just so I think when he unveils himself and he becomes an actual force within not only the lore but the tabletop,
The setting, yeah.
that will likely decide whether or not order remains a thing,
Mm-hmm.
because obviously he's going to fight chaos,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean I think it was like a typo or something where it mentioned that he's one of the chaos gods. I don't think that's actually accurate. I think that somebody screwed up, but I mean, he's always hated chaos, but he's always hated elves too. He hates everybody.
I was gonna say, what if it's not a typo? What if it's the new? You also mentioned Skaven.
Mm-hmm.
Skaven in the Chaos Pantheon is kind of like, I don't know, putting ice cream spoons in the main cutlery drawer. You just don't do that. They don't fit. So it's, Skaven have always been, oh yeah, that cute other chaos god. What if they want to be their own thing? And you know what? There's enough Skaven to warrant their own thing.
And they have the ability to travel between the realms by themselves. They don't need realm gates.
They got something nobody else has.
Yeah.
So they could be a thing all by themselves. And maybe they're tired of getting stepped on by Nurgle and stepped on by Archeon. Maybe they're like, no, we are a thing on our own. And it just seems to me that this structure of 4 grand alliances is really coming apart at the seams. It doesn't work. A destruction, there isn't a single destruction army that looks around and goes, I fight for destruction. Order.
There's a substantial difference between
I don't care.
The ogre outlook,
like
the Frost Lords, and I don't know, Gloomspite.
Yeah.
Like they are not on the same page, which makes sense. They're destruction.
Or with Iron Jaws.
Yeah.
I mean, they are loosely bound together by this idea of we like to break stuff.
Sure, but who doesn't?
But
the Stormcast are pretty good at destroying things too.
Yeah, they're experts.
Yeah.
So I mean, they don't really. There's no banner that says, "I am destruction, follow me." No, they're going to do whatever they want. Why should they be limited into this major structure based on a highlighted word in a text?
Yeah, unless Gorka Morka is going to come back and lead it.
Sure.
Which I don't think will happen because.
And if it does, maybe that's one of the books. Maybe that's,
I don't know. I think Games Workshop always likes to use destruction and orcs and stuff as kind of like this generic fall guy.
They're the plot armor.
Yeah, well, we just need somebody to fight. And
if this is getting out of hand, we can bring in 10,000 orcs.
Yeah. But we don't have to do anything. We don't have to explain them.
No.
We don't have to, whatever. It's just bodies for the good guys the protagonists to chew through. And then we'll go from there.
They were walking by and they saw a good tussle going on, so let's get involved.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're a great little MacGuffin. So, but I mean, it's just, I don't know, in my little worldview, I don't see the Grand Alliances as being either grand or allianced anymore. And I think hopefully maybe this Shattered Realm will do away with that as we, as it leans us more towards the idea of the 3rd edition of AOS, get your mindset out of the 4 major keywords, and feel free to, just explore the space a little bit. And I'm not saying that all of a sudden we're going to be able to build an army with a Bloodthirster and 2 units of Vanguard Hunters and a Basilisk or a Stegodon.
Yeah.
I don't think that, that's not what's going to happen. But I think that the alliances themselves and how the realms are structured right now is probably going to go away as people stop paying lip service to Sigmar, and maybe some of Chaos stops paying lip service to Archaon. With him, I always found it interesting that in the lore, in the story, he was going to free Slaanesh. He was right there ready to do it when he got called out because the Ossiarch Bone Reapers were about to lay waste to the 8 points. So he had to leave what he was doing, go back and handle Catacross and all the Ossiarch Bone Reapers.
And handle him, he did.
Oh, boy. Well, he is Archaon.
Yep.
But, he has an agenda. Now, if he starts to free Slaanesh, are the other 3 Chaos Gods going to be like, whoa, good boy, way to go? That was a really good thing for Chaos as a whole. Wait a minute. We have never once in our existences fought for Chaos as a whole.
Right.
It's Khorne or nobody, pal.
Right.
And, who knows? At this point, maybe they get a little mad at Archaon. Maybe they begin to realize that he's not in it for them.
Well, if they haven't realized that at this point, then I don't know what to tell them.
Well, I look at the Chaos Gods as more or less like little Sigmars. They're just not the brightest. They're not the sharpest knives in the drawer.
The deities in the mortal realms in general don't tend to be particularly bright.
But, the thing is that's not only plot armor. That has to be there. If they were really bright, if Tzeentch was as smart as he thought he was, there would be no mortal realms. There would be nothing other than...
Well, they explained that with Tzeentch, though. Like, Tzeentch knows that if he wins, he loses.
He loses everything.
So it's like...
And so does Khorne. Yeah. If I win and there's no more fighting, I die.
That's why Slaanesh is the most...
tractable.
Yeah, well, he's the scariest. He's the most powerful.
Yeah.
Because, he's the one that could actually win.
Yeah.
So...
And, winning is an end game for Slaanesh.
Yeah.
So... Yeah, and, Nurgle would be just as happy with almost any outcome.
Yeah, what happens when he makes the ultimate plague?
Well, yeah, then everybody dies and they come back as...
But do they come back?
Festering ghouls, and, yeah.
Everything just died.
Well...
It's weird. I don't know. It's kind of
it's...
Chaos is a contradiction, which is fine.
Well, it has to be that way. Otherwise, they would have won. Wait a minute.
Whoops.
Okay, so anyway, about the Grand Alliances.
Yeah, so... Now, as far as these books being a series like Psychic Awakening, first of all, is this a whole new series? Because I remember when Wrath of the Everchosen came out, and it was the Soul Wars campaign.
Yeah.
So are they just scrapping Soul Wars? And that was the only bit for that? Or what?
I can only go with what I saw. And honestly, that book went over like a lead balloon. Did you hear anybody talking about it? On any of the...
Yeah, there's a bunch of cool Chaos Army options in there. 5 Bloodthirsters.
There's great in-game options. There's great stuff in there. But it did nothing to move the... obviously, it did everything to move the story. That's where we got the whole thing of Archaon releasing Slaanesh.
Yeah.
But...
Which is where we're poised right now.
I think that was like the intro to this. I think that was to lay the groundwork for what's going to happen in this Shattered Realms thing. I don't think, they made a mistake and they didn't mean to put that out. I'm thinking that when they said this was going to be a big campaign series, I think what they were alluding to was it was going to lead to this Shattered Realms. And,
maybe, yeah.
Because honestly, if you rebirth a god, things are probably going to change in all the realms because gods have that weird ability to just mess up everything.
Yeah, it's going to affect inflation.
Big time. Yeah, there's going to be some, a ducat in Phoenicium's not going to get what you thought it would. But,
you're going to need more rubles. Yeah, maybe this is okay. Well, so let's say this is a whole new series. I don't, like you said, I don't think they're going to do for AOS what they did for 40K, in that they're going to release like 12 Broken Realms books, and each one will
Yeah.
have like a few rules for
For
everybody.
different
Yeah,
factions. No, I don't think so.
I think that was a very 40K centric thing. That's
And it worked for that environment.
sure. So yeah, but I don't know, because Wrath of the Everchosen had some really sweet chaos rules.
Yeah,
in
it did. And with Marathi, with the first book in this new series, and they've said it's a series,
Yeah,
with it being Marathi, you have to think that something is going to move her to where she's comfortable telling Sigmar to go pound salt. And to me, that means she ascends to godhood, or at least is strong enough to where if he tries to put her under the thumb, she can look back and say, yeah, go away. And the idea that she's going to fight other elves as well as, the boys clad in Sigmar. Yeah, okay, Stormcast. That tells me that she's going out on her own. She's a free player.
or, and I'll throw this out there,
Uh-oh.
because it also says that she's going to fight elves.
Yeah.
She could turn on Tyrion and Teclis
Sure.
because Malarian comes back
Oh.
and sides with her.
Oh.
And maybe that's how she gets that chip against Sigmar, is like, I don't need you anymore.
Because,
My boy is here.
Tyrion and Teclis are about to figure out that she's been siphoning off souls.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, not just, oh, here's one or two. No, she has been taking enough to reach godhood. Malarian comes back and says, oh, wow, check it out. I hate those guys.
Yeah.
We should probably work. So, yeah, maybe this becomes an elven civil war with Alariel being the wild card.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about
You know?
Alariel, because she doesn't really count anymore.
Yeah, I mean,
she doesn't. I say she doesn't count because her army is
super well established. And
no, it's trees. There's no elves. The wanderers are gone.
that's true. Yeah.
Wood elves aren't a thing
Mhm.
anymore. So, yeah, she's part of the elven pantheon, I guess, but she has no elves to pantheon. So,
You yell at me.
wait. Oh, yeah. Edit that out. Take it out, Bill.
No.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, she technically is part of that
Mm-hmm.
thing, but she hasn't been taking anything from Slanesh.
No, not a thing that
I
we
wonder if
know
she
of.
knew that she could.
Well, I'm also wondering if it's something we might not, when it comes right down to it, Sylvaneth are not wood elves. They're very angry trees. They are
Very,
not
Very angry.
happy trees. They're not a nice walk in the forest. They are I'll beat you up for walking in my forest. So maybe she has been, and maybe just nobody knows. And she's really been doing the long play. Supposition.
Yeah, and another thing is, out of all these elven chodes, she's the only one that's always been a god.
Yeah. Yeah, she's not. There was
the
no
rest of
ascension for
these-
Alariel.
Yeah, the rest of them have just kind of like figured it out recently.
They walked
know.
into that job.
And then, yeah, you might have Marathi trying to make a play.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, look,
Yeah,
I've been
here's
playing
the
this game
deal,
for
people.
a long time.
Yeah.
Longer than any of you even remember.
And yeah, I mean, I was around when Sigmar was an acorn.
Yeah,
So,
that's
know,
true.
yeah. And so to have this guy come in and screw up my entire world, yeah, that's what I mean is I see all these things falling apart, and then I see this opportunity to make a book. Okay, first book is Marathi. Next book is Malarian.
Yeah, I think that's probably where we're going.
Next book, it could be Gordrak, just to spice things up a little bit.
Sure.
And then the next book is, I don't want to say Archeon because I think that would be too overarching, but, maybe it's Catacross, or maybe it's Lady Olinda, some major player from a faction. And we see divisions within these. The only one I see that would be really hard to mess up would be Death. Because the only one you could honestly split apart would be take Flesh Eater Courts and move them over to Sigmar in order.
Yeah,
because of their twisted belief.
yeah, but they've made it pretty explicitly clear that they see Nagash as like the ultimate being
Mm-hmm.
of like divinity. Like he's the
Yeah.
guy. So I don't see them leaving.
Well-
But Death is the only faction, a Grand Alliance, that they did say there will be Death armies that do not follow Nagash.
Yeah.
There are, because Nagash is quite evil. I mean,
Mhm.
you could try to debate that however you want,
Yeah.
but he's an evil clown. And they've said that there will be like good and neutral Death armies
Yeah.
too. Why wouldn't there be?
Right.
So I don't know. You say Death might be the only one that's not like that, but they're the only ones they explicitly said will be different. So I don't know.
Okay, so on that note, we're going to take a quick break to have
Uh-oh.
some hamburgers, and then we'll come back to the characters and a little bit more of what's going to happen in 3rd edition.
Yep.
Be right back.
What characters are you hoping they will focus on? Well, obviously, Morathi,
Morathi.
is going to be a big one.
I'm not hoping they deal with her. I'm sure they will
Yeah,
deal with her.
She's going to be.
But do we think this series is going to focus on those main players? I mean, are we going to get a book for, like you said, Malarian, and then maybe a book for...
It's interesting, right? Because like how it's very easy to see this becoming an Elven thing, but it
Yeah.
almost has to be an Elven thing, right? Because Morathi makes a power play. Slaanesh is freed.
Yeah.
That obviously draws in Tyrion and Teclis
Yeah.
on top of the Lumineth release.
Yep.
So how does it not like this Elven focused narrative aspect? Now, I guess what you could do is the Morathi book is titled Morathi,
Mm-hmm.
and it obviously deals with her, but you could potentially wrap up the Elven stuff in the book.
Yeah, in that
and
book.
end it with like the actual release of Slaanesh, right?
Yeah.
Like Slaanesh is back.
Yeah.
The chains
Right,
break.
ladies, I'm here.
Yeah. And so the second book then becomes, like a Slaanesh book and
Yeah.
dealing with chaos and how the other three, well, I mean, okay, let's be real. The other four,
Yeah.
because the Horned Rat is a thing.
Is a
He's
thing.
been acknowledged. He's part of the Pantheon.
Mm-hmm.
How they deal with that,
Yeah.
the backlash amongst them, the infighting,
Yeah.
or potentially unification. Doesn't mean that the other Chaos Gods can't unite against a very angry Slaanesh.
Yeah.
And
it might even behoove them to do that.
yeah, because
mean-
it could be them against Slaanesh and Archeon.
Because, I mean, it was pretty clear in Wrath of the Everchosen that Archeon was very interested in freeing Slaanesh because he found Slaanesh to be the most tractable of the Chaos Gods.
Right.
And, if anybody's playing the long game, it's him.
Yeah.
So,
And then, so maybe book 2 is Slaanesh.
yeah.
Okay. And then book 3,
I think they're going to focus more on characters.
like
though.
actual tangible characters.
Yeah, it's when you're in a game setting like this and focusing on a god is really hard to translate to the tabletop. I mean, I guess they could do it, but
There are gods on the table. I mean,
yeah, I mean,
we're
we
getting-
have Valerial.
we're getting
and
Teclis, we have Valerial, we have Nagash,
Mm-hmm.
we have, I continue to push the narrative that Archeon is effectively a god at
Yeah,
this point.
Exactly.
Uh,
See, I kind of think the next book is going to be Teclis.
so do you feel then that it will be a elf-centric narrative thing going forward with this?
I think tipping it all off, I think the way that you start to change the scale is with the big elven conflict.
Yeah.
And there's a lot there to be resolved or to be changed.
Sure.
But then you can start to move over to other. If they're going to do this like Psychic Awakening and they're going to reach out and touch all of the game world,
Mhm.
there's a lot more factions in AOS than there are in 40K. So it's not like I don't see you doing a book for each. So I think it has to be overarching storylines.
Yeah, but Psychic Awakening wasn't a book per army.
No,
They
it was
they took a
like
couple
2 or
armies.
3 in each one.
They could They could do that. I mean, because that's kind of what Wrath of the Overchosen was, right?
Yeah.
Was like
It was
chaos and death, a specific death
and
faction.
and here's all the new stuff.
Right.
And to have death in a chaos book, I mean, you know, I don't know. There's just so many things I can see. So what if Catacross with the OCR Bone Reapers is looking around going, that Archeon fella, he put a hurting on me. He whooped my butt.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm going to reach out to him and talk. Because, you know, I used to be the best in the world.
Sure you were.
the
kid.
best.
Could have been a contender.
I could have been.
Yeah.
And now there's somebody better. Maybe we need to talk. So maybe OBR comes out of death. I mean, honestly, does he really need Nagash?
Does anybody really need Nagash?
You know.
I
mean, is he enslaved to Nagash is the question.
Yes.
And yes.
Yeah.
However, could that power also come from chaos? I mean, I am literally poking at
I don't see
straws
why
here.
not. Now, back in the old days, sit back and I'll regale you with a tale of square bases.
Ooh.
In the end times, there was a story of a vampire and his brood, if you will, that obviously swore fealty. Well, it didn't so much swear fealty to Nagash, because Nagash wasn't the overall god of death yet.
Yeah.
He was definitely making a play for it. This vampire lord went north of the wall that was created to hold chaos back. And when he came back to fight Karl Franz, he was a corn worshiper.
Eh,
He was a vampire. The other vampires with him were all worshippers of corn, which makes sense.
yeah.
There's a lot of blood. I mean,
That's
you know, how do you not want to sign up to the Golden Corral
exactly of
of
blood.
blood? You know, it's always going to be there. So
There's your death faction that doesn't know anything to Nagash.
that's true.
A vampire counts army that works for Korn. Hello. I mean, does it not just fit?
Yes. And I
So
would be all in. God, would you? Oh,
uh,
Just give it to me now.
yeah, right.
You know?
Shut up and take my money.
yeah.
Yeah. So,
So I mean, I really believe they're going to go all over with these books. The characters that I would like to see developed
yeah, that's
are Malarian, because I
Sure,
want to see
yeah.
what's going to happen.
right.
Grugni or some Dwarden leader
Yeah. Okay.
who is going to make them into something that they are not now.
Not just a whole mercenaries.
Yeah.
Okay.
To say,
I'm
listen,
not a fan of that.
yeah, we are oppressed on all sides. Nobody loves us because we have screwed everyone.
Yeah.
It's time to start looking at how we do business. Get it? You know, business. So, and then also I would like to see something in death. And I would love it if it was Catacross. Or somebody in death that looks at Nagash and says, you know,
No mas.
you are seriously the clown of all the deities,
Yeah.
of all the gods. You are the one that is dumbest of the dumb. And we're not talking a high bar. Okay.
Oh yeah.
You do not have a big thing to leap across, but you've managed.
Consistently to
So,
trip over that.
Yeah, I'm out of here. And I no longer, and you know, you look at all the things that happened with the Necroquake, that really got out of his control really fast. There has to be the Manfreds, the Archons, the Nephratas looking at that going, you took 10,000 years to figure this out, and at the last minute, you couldn't figure out how to keep the rats out of it? This is not the first time.
Oh yeah. That's
So-
yeah. Yeah, that's the thing, is Nagash is like just as incompetent as Sigmar, right?
Yeah.
Because Nagash has been whacked by Skaven before.
Yeah.
I mean, they're always like his MacGuffin.
It
of-
happens all the time. And
Yeah.
you didn't have people patrolling to keep the rats out? You're an idiot.
Maybe you're not as powerful as you want to think you are.
That's right.
As you
And-
want to kick and scream and whine that you are.
Yeah. And maybe we're just going to go our own way now. Thanks for playing bye.
Okay.
And,
Okay.
you know, I mean, so I would like to see a book for something like, it doesn't have to be Catacross, but one of the major death players.
What if it's a new death player?
Sure. What if it's a new, he raises up all these Mortarks and one of them is like, thanks. That's the link in the chain I needed to get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
So,
Or what if it's another death god? I mean, they talk about how there's other death gods. What if one of them, and they also talk about like these incredibly powerful artifacts
yeah,
that are laying around
in the storm vaults.
yeah,
that are
well,
now
not just
open.
not just the storm vaults, but just in general. I mean,
Yeah.
the Spear of Lamentation was a weapon so powerful that even the gods feared it.
Yeah.
What it,
And it
there
was
could
lying
be,
around.
yeah, it's currently seeking some human joker. I think it was. I don't forget. Anyways, what's to stop some other death god from
Yeah.
getting a hold of some artifact that puts him on par with Nagash?
Yeah.
When Nagash rolls up, because Nagash is used to showing up and just snapping his fingers and something dies.
And-
because
yeah.
that's what he does. He just kills everything.
right.
And what if he snaps his fingers at somebody and he's like, "No, I'm good."
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not bowing to you.
And what if it's like Lord Croak, who's an undead Seraphon? And, he just walks around and goes, oh, yeah, your spells are so cute. You want some of mine?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, you just anything. Hell.
I'm literally older than you.
Yeah. And I've been doing this since you were, well, okay. No, I've been doing it a lot longer than that.
Yeah. Before the kingdom you came from in the old world was even
Ever
thought
existed.
of.
What if they had like a god that they pulled like from ancient Egypt or something? And then, no more Tomb Kings. Okay. No Tomb King jokes. Sorry. Sorry.
Cetra knelt. All right. He's gone. Sorry.
All right. So, I mean, but yeah, as far as the ones I want to see, it would be Malarian, some death major player, which I would love to see it be Catacross. But they could do anything they wanted. Well, and they will. And then some order faction that currently works for Sigmar that also says,
I'm out.
yeah, no. And maybe it's just a free city. Maybe it's a group of Stormcast. And, we've always said, I don't want to see Chaos Stormcast.
Right.
I don't want to see the 40K
I don't want to
plotline
see Chaos
play out
Space Marines
again.
in Age of Sigmar.
Yeah, exactly. But maybe it's a few groups of Stormcast that are like, okay, your way is not working. We are coming back really messed up. We're out. Now,
Yeah.
I don't know if they can. I mean, they are literally, they can't do anything without that, thing, that apotheosis thing in Azir. But maybe somebody figures out, one of these sacrosanct chambers figures out a different way to bring them back. And they just are like, whoa, we're out of here. You ruined our lives.
I don't
You
know.
ruined everything.
I feel like Vandus Hammerhand is to Sigmar what Arcan is to
Yeah.
Nagash, right? Like, you are just bound, and
Yeah.
regardless of what your will is, you cannot
Can't leave me.
break me. You can't break from me. It'll destroy you.
Right. But what if there's an artifact out there that
Yeah,
is just
There's always a
like,
MacGuffin, right?
you know?
You
Yeah.
to
So
create
that's
something
what
new.
I would like to see. What do you want to see?
Yeah, Malarian.
Mm-hmm.
Malarian or Tyrion.
Yeah.
Because I really don't feel like, after having the Realm Lords book and seeing, how they interact as an army and stuff, I don't feel like this is Tyrion's army.
No.
This is Teclis's side project
You
again.
betcha.
We've gotten another one of Teclis's projects.
Yeah.
Tyrion had a hand in it for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't think this is Tyrion's army.
No.
And I very much feel like Tyrion deserves.
His own.
I want angelic
Yeah.
night elves.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
Yeah.
Okay.
I hear you.
I'm being selfish. And I think there's a lot of people out there that want the same thing. Conversely,
Fair enough.
I want crazy, evil, shadow, badass elves.
Yeah.
Because I played Dark Elves for a long time back
Yeah.
in the day. And I think Malarian coming back and releasing his army on the world
Oh my
would
God.
be terrifying. And we've gotten a taste of it with the Warcry, right? No. The Warcry band. Right? The crazy shadow elf.
Oh, yeah. You're
Yeah.
right. Which one? Oh, boy.
Oh, you had them on here, but you don't.
Damn, I don't know.
I mean, they were previewed a long time ago, but now we know that more are coming.
Yep.
But they're for Warcry.
Yeah.
They're not for.
But
Age
that
of
doesn't mean they can't be.
Yeah, I
A
mean, all the
thing.
Warcry Chaos bands are in the Slaves of
Sort
Darkness
of have
book,
a,
so.
yeah, they have a in.
So I would like to see something there.
Yep.
And you talked about Grungni. And the thing about Grungni is, like, yeah, I would like to see him come back, but also, what if, and I think this has been hinted at, Valleja comes back,
Mm.
right? And what if he finds like the essence of Valleja in Nagash? Because Nagash killed
Oh,
her, back in the
wow.
end times. Maybe that's why he is in exile, is he's trying to figure out a way, like, I'm going to wring her out of his neck. I'm going to get
Wow.
my mitts on Nagash. I'm going
And
to beat
that
his
might
ass
be
until
enough
I get
to
my wife
knock him
back.
down enough that the others could declare
Yeah.
independence or something. Yeah.
And maybe then by having a unified Dwarden pantheon, it unites the Dwarden in a more, I'm not saying like completely page one rewrite Fire
Yeah,
Slayers
no.
and KO, but it would definitely give them a more directed narrative of like, well, we're more unified.
Yeah, we work for ourselves, but there's also a higher power that we kind of will answer the call to.
And maybe with her coming back, it could allow them to find the shards of the one the Fire Slayers worship.
Grungni and Grimnir.
Grimnir, yes.
Sorry.
Grimnir, yeah. All I could think of was Gygax. I'm like, he's a god in
He's a
another
god,
way.
but he's in our world.
Yeah, and maybe they could bring back Grimnir and unify. There's so many
There's
different
so
directions.
many things they can do. I mean, and you can do anything and get away with it.
Right.
Not just because you're the flagship, but because it's so open.
Yeah.
You
I understand maybe there might be a part where they're sitting there like, do we really want to bring back all these old world gods? Does that really help us?
But if you bring them back with new storylines and new forces, you're not saying, oh, let's just bring the Bretonnians back with this guy.
Right.
No, you're bringing back entirely new, reimagined forces. None of these gods are going to bring back their old pals. They're not there anymore.
Yeah.
So they have to start new. And the ones who can new the coolest are going to succeed.
Yeah.
And Sigmar has failed with his newness. Well, I mean, they're flawed. They're not failed. They're flawed.
Yeah.
Nagash has obviously failed multiple times. The Chaos Gods, they pretty much still have their act together because not much has changed for them in the new
Right.
venue.
Yeah, they just do.
So,
Chaos do what chaos
They just,
do.
they do the do that they do so well. But, there's just all these different ways. And, even somebody like me that I was not a big fan of the old world. Not that I wasn't a fan of the old world. I just didn't think the game was cool.
Right.
You cannot deny that lore, that story was so involved. And bringing these characters back with some vestiges of their old grudges and you're not hurting anybody. And if you're just new, if you're like me and you started this with AOS, okay, so Tyrion is back. Teclis is back. Okay, I'm perfectly fine with that. It's a beautiful model. He has all new abilities. I don't have to go back through all the old books to figure out who he is.
Yeah.
I know who he is. He's the god of the elves who's tried twice and maybe is succeeding this time. So
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
you
that's
can
fine.
do that. You can bring those old names back without the baggage that those names have.
Sure.
And yet still make a very engaging lore story that is continuing. It's moving down the road. It's not Grungni of old. It's not, Malarian of old. They have new agendas. They have new things that they want to do.
Yeah. So I guess what the characters I would like to see is Tyrion,
Yes.
Malarian,
Yes.
Grungni
Yeah.
/ something for the Dwarden.
Yeah.
Something
Something
big
really
for the
big for
dwarf.
the dwarves.
And then of course destruction. Something for destruction. I just don't want them to be this mindless backdrop that doesn't really get any attention because they just shrug their shoulders and be like, it's destruction.
Yeah, we'll go fight somewhere.
They don't really have any cohesive thought and blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, but you could challenge yourself to write a better story and give destruction something different.
Yeah.
If we're going to rip Order apart because Order doesn't have to be good,
Yeah.
right? And we might potentially plant the seeds in death that not everybody has to follow Nagash. And then Chaos is chaos, right?
Yeah.
Like they do their own thing.
They have their own end game.
There's absolutely nothing stopping destruction from having a faction or a character within an existing faction start unifying stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, look at 40K with Gazkul.
Yeah.
And like how terrifying orcs are about to become, because he's finally
Yeah.
the thing that the Imperium
Giving
has
them
always
purpose.
dreaded.
Yeah.
Is not Necrons, it's not Tyranids, it's orcs finally getting it together under one
With a
unified banner,
purpose.
and it's happening.
Yeah.
And the people in the know are terrified.
Yep.
In 40K. I mean, you don't necessarily maybe have to have a Gazkul in AOS, which
No.
I mean, Gordrak would be your closest
Yeah.
thing. But there's nothing stopping destruction from having a different flavor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it doesn't always have to be the French vanilla of destruction. You could throw some almond pistachio
There you go.
in there. I don't know,
What
some
a pecan.
tres leches. You
Yeah.
know, spice it up.
Okay, so now,
Okay.
what rules are going to translate from 40K into AOS 3.0? And I'll tell you right now, I'm betting you the unit coherency,
Yeah, I was thinking
for
that.
sure.
I was thinking that.
The morale rules, probably lifted word for word
Maybe.
with
Okay.
a global search and replace where it says leadership changed to bravery.
Yeah.
And then I think we finally see the end of random turn.
Oh, stop it.
Yeah,
There will be revolts, riots in the street. Well, we already have that. Wait.
yeah. So
No, I honestly think that the majority of players like that about Age of Sigmar. And it is but sometimes it is that vocal minority that won't shut up and stop crying that makes the change. So I sincerely hope not. I think the random turn order gives Age of Sigmar the uniqueness that it needs as a game system.
yeah, otherwise it's just call it 40K with thunk thunk instead of pew pew.
Yeah.
Yeah, because at that point you lose some of the flavor. I am a proponent of random turn order.
I love it.
I also think it's really, really a bad mechanic. Well, it is.
Okay.
Because it leads to nothing good. There is no part of random turn order that leads to a wonderful outcome for both players on the table telling the story. So this is the only reason why I think, again.
You know what we need to do?
Okay.
We need to play a couple games with an established turn order
Okay.
and see if it actually makes a difference. How many people do you think are actually doing that? Instead of just saying, I want it to change. It's like, okay, but have you played AOS? Doing that several games enough to actually give yourself a
We have played a
sample
couple
size?
of games where it alternated and neither one of us got a double turn.
Yeah, but
And
the potential is still there, which means you always have to plan.
well, and
for
see,
it.
again, that's why, at the same time, I really like it because
Yeah.
you can't just, in 40K, you can do your bonsai move because at the end of your turn, if you're in a reasonably good spot to weather the next opponent turn, that's all you have to worry about.
Right,
You can then follow it up. In AOS, you try that and you lose and it's game over.
Yeah.
And again, that's why I like it. My only thing is I could see them saying that, and I don't think they're going to get rid of it. I think what they're going to do is say, here's the rule for turns. Player A goes, then player B goes, then player A goes, then player B goes. As an option, at the end of each turn, players can roll a die and the high die decides who goes, or something, just like the rule is now. Because that means your events, your competitive events can all be the way you want them to be.
Yeah,
with
they
the
could be that
random
way
turnover.
anyways. There's nothing stopping TOs from saying we're not going to do we're going to institute alternating turns.
Yeah.
It just takes a TO to step up to the plate and say, hey, we're going to try something different.
But if it's codified, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, I suppose.
I think they will make it an optional rule. I don't think they will get rid of it. I think they will make random turn order optional.
Do you even remember what events were like, buddy? So long ago.
I remember there was this one time I was in this really, really big room
Yeah.
and there was like hundreds of people talking about the same game I was.
Yeah.
It was really weird,
It's
though.
like
It
a
was
dream.
kind of scary, though.
The only thing
There's a
that
lot
kept
of
it from being
nerds.
a dream was the smell.
The lack of soap.
Yeah. That's. Oh, yeah. So I totally agree with you on unit coherency. I think
Yeah.
that is definitely a thing that
Yes.
could and possibly should port over to third edition AOS.
Mhm.
And for those who don't know anything about 40K or what's been implemented, what
yeah.
it is that if a unit is 1 to 10
1 through
models,
5 models
is it 1 through 5
Yeah,
or
1
1
through
through 10?
5.
Okay, 1 through 5, they just have to be within 2 inches of each other.
of each other.
And in
5
40K,
inches
it's 2
vertically.
inches. So obviously in AOS, it would be back
It'd
down
be
to 1.
1 inch.
If it's 6 or more models,
Yeah.
that means that each model in the unit has to be within, in 40K, it's 2,
In-
has to be within 2 inches of two
2
other
models.
models.
Yeah.
So essentially what it means is no more conga lines.
You can't just stretch from, with a 40-man unit, you can't stretch
Right.
from table side to table side.
Now you could still conga line.
Mm-hmm.
It just means that you would have like this triangle
Yes.
thing and it wouldn't stretch as far.
Right.
You could still cover a fair amount of board,
Yeah.
in AOS, and you got 60 grots
Well, and you can take that chance, but if you run up against one of those units that can pick a
that can
model
snipe, yeah.
to die.
Which you already, that issue already exists in AOS.
Yeah.
though, if you conga
does.
line.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's still a thing you have to look out for, but it's a lot more prevalent in AOS. There's only like one unit in 40K that can pick the
Yeah.
model that it does damage to. But in AOS, again, in AOS, a mob of 40 cultists is not going to string itself 40 men long to cover an entire board and advance in step by step. No, they're going to be a mob, and they should look like a mob.
right.
20 skinks, 30 skinks are not going to stretch across the table to prevent deep strikes, or
Yeah.
it should not happen that way, and a rule should be implemented. And this coherency thing it's a beautiful way of doing it.
Well, you know what, Bill? Maybe don't dictate my narrative. Maybe my army likes to hold hands and daisy chain across the battlefield.
Hands across America, or
Yeah.
hands across the mortal
Right.
realms.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
Okay. I wrote it into my backstory.
I'll wipe out your little rainbow coalition. Okay.
Blood for the blood god does not care.
Does not care.
So,
yeah.
okay,
it's-
yeah, I see that potential.
I
very
see the
likely
morale
happening.
change.
Yeah, I think that could become a thing.
And it was big in 40K. I think it will be bigger in AOS if they make it as is. And the way the rules is in 40K now, you basically take a leadership morale test or a, bravery check, whatever you
Right.
want to call it. If you fail, you lose a model. The remainder of the models in that unit all roll 1 die, and on every 1, that model is removed. Rather than saying, okay, I lost 17 chain rasps from a unit of 30, so I'm going to roll 1 die, add 17, and that's how many I lose. Your unit's wiped out. Forget it.
Right.
It's gone. Now, okay, I fail, so I remove 1. If my unit's already at half strength, I remove 2. Or no, I'm sorry. If my unit is at better than half strength, I roll a d6, and on a 1, a model goes away. If it's below half strength, on a 1 or a 2,
Yeah.
a model goes away. This will make your orc boys, your skinks, your mobs, your hordes.
Yeah.
It'll make them a little more survivable in the environment that we have in AOS now, where there's lots of stuff that can chew through a 30-man blob, unless it's Nurgle. But there's a lot of things that can wipe out a unit of 30, and
Sure.
we are getting bigger and bigger damage items all the time. So I think those morale rules will let units stick around a little longer, maybe, hopefully. That was the goal in 40K. So
Yeah.
what about table size? You see table size dropping in
No.
AOS?
I don't think so. I guess not. I don't know. It's possible, right?
I guarantee it.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Wow.
Because they don't want to have 2 different product lines.
Oh, yeah.
We have these boards for 40K, but these really big boards for AOS.
That's true.
And, look at it from Frontline Gaming point of view, Fat Matt, those point of view. Do they want to have to stock AOS mats. And
Yeah, that's like an
40K
inch and a
mats.
quarter bigger than, yeah.
Yeah,
that's
it's
okay.
no, I can see that as a
Okay,
guarantee.
yeah, boards will probably change.
Mhm.
I don't see the double turn. I don't see any modification to that.
I do.
The one big change that I have been harping on for years.
Yes,
What do you think it is?
I agree completely. An element of danger for casting magic.
Yes. I'm
Yes.
glad to know that that
Oh,
is
it's-
like so ingrained into my character.
Yeah.
Yes. The amount of magic
Yes.
available for some of these armies
For
now.
free.
I'm looking at Lumineth. I'm looking at Seraphon. I'm looking at Zinch and Slaves of Darkness.
Slaves to Darkness. Yeah.
The amount of magic
Yes.
these armies are capable of now is
Without
unflipping real.
any.
No miscast, nothing
Nothing.
like that.
And it doesn't have to be debilitating.
Right.
It literally 40K, it's mortal wounds to the caster.
Yep.
That's it.
D3.
And yeah, and you know what? There has to be something, because when you're playing the ground pounder army and you're going up against Lumineth with your orcs, or you're, going up there with your whatever that doesn't cast spells, it's
Fire
very
Slayers.
disheartening to basically not play in one phase of the game.
Well, yeah, I mean, it all happens in the hero phase, but it can be frustrating when the armies that I honestly feel sorry for, because like Khorne has no magic, but they have some built-in anti-magic.
Right.
Fire Slayers has no magic, but they have some built-in anti-magic. right?
Magic. Yeah.
What I'm talking about is armies like Deepkin or even, like Iron Jaws.
Sylvaneth.
Or, yeah, I mean, Sylvaneth has like a little bit more magic.
They have a
than-
smattering, but it's not their thing.
Right.
But when they go up against these other armies,
Yeah.
they are negated.
It's like, well, why am I even spending points on these guys when they're never going to get a spell off?
Right.
Because you're so over the top. And it
Yeah.
used to be like, okay, you could make the same claim for like a Legions and a Gash army, right? But like Archon is +2 or 3 to unbind. It's like, well, how are your wizards supposed to get through that? It's like, yes, but that's one army
Yeah.
out of the meta. Like that's
Sure.
one army that I'll run into that's that heavily stacked against unbinding. Now it's Legions and a Gash. It's Seraphon. It's
Lumineth, who
Yeah, the Realm
literally
Lords.
dispel at will.
It's Cities of Sigmar. It's like the anti-magic capability of your army
Yeah.
is such that the 20% that I spent on it in my army is wasted.
Yeah.
And my 20% can't shut down your magic, so it's not like you lost anything.
That's right.
And your ability to shut my magic down is just an added bonus.
It's inherent in what you brought.
Right. To the synergy that your magic casting already gets.
Yes.
I get, and you're not, there's no penalty to it.
No,
There's
none.
no gamble. There's
Yep.
just something that is like so strong, and the ability to teleport units around the table, the ability.
Well, just looking at that Lumineth Realm Lords book, just Teclis alone, without any support, will completely dominate both hero phases.
Yeah. He's pretty rough.
Because not only does he just choose how many spells he wants to basically automatically go off,
Right.
but then when it's yours, he can automatically unbind one spell and then take a shot at every other one.
Yep.
So unless you really position yourself now with the smaller board size, you're not going to have a lot of places that are 30 inches away.
Yeah, it might reduce that though if the
It-
board size.
And
goes
they
down.
could. I mean,
Yeah.
they very only scale everything. So,
Yeah.
but honestly, right now, there's not a lot of places where he's not
Yeah.
going to have
He's a
that
big
effect.
footprint. He's
Yeah.
a big footprint. He will
And-
get around.
It's your life is over. It's
Yeah.
your magic life is over with him around. I don't care if you're Nagash. I really don't.
Well, okay. Nagash has a +4 out of the gate.
Mm-hmm.
Teclis has a +1 and an auto cast and auto unbind. So
Yeah.
he'll get his 1.
Yeah.
Nagash casts 8 spells or
Yeah.
5 or whatever. I forget how
Which he can take a
changed it.
chance at unbinding every single one.
Yeah, but I mean, what if you take Nagash and Arcan?
Okay. Then I
don't think Teclis could shut that down.
Then I just waltz up with Teclis. Oh, and I might bring my little, since you have two, I'll bring my little suit of empty armor here. Don't mind it. It's just a mannequin. It's here
Yeah.
with me. Oh, did I mention he's a Vegematic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's an angry boy.
And then I proceed to,
He doesn't fly.
Oh, well, look at him.
Nagash or an Archon fly, they can get away from him. They could spam him with skeletons. Now, I think you make a stronger point in that, okay, so Teclis is doing his thing, but I also happen to have a whole army of elves that do mortal wounds on 5-ups. It's
And-
freaking disgusting.
Yeah,
That's
it's
so disgusting.
the synergies in that army.
Oh, my God.
That is,
Yeah.
of course, Lumineth is one army that once you chip away the first character, the rest of it begins to fall apart.
I don't know,
because
man.
They
All those-
rely on each other.
All those units can buff themselves just
Oh, yeah.
fine.
Oh, they're like Osiark. They're
Just
very,
fine.
very independent.
I don't know.
And they have their ether, or I'm sorry, to me, everything now is ether gold
Right.
or
Ether
ether quartz
quartz.
or ether zippy or,
It's like 40K with lightning and blood and
yeah,
lightning
Skull.
wolf blood and
blood
Yeah.
skull and bane hammer and bane
oh
sword
yeah,
and
you gotta
bane
throw banes and
blade and
hammers in there.
storm hammer
Your-
and storm blade.
Yeah,
Yeah.
lightning hammer, bane wolf blood.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah,
I see a lot of changes coming up for AOS 3.0 that are going to be inherent system changes for the better. I see coherency changing for sure. Leadership, I hope changes.
bravery.
Bravery.
Yeah,
Yeah, bravery changing.
don't cross the streams.
I think random turn order goes to an optional role.
Stop it.
The
Stop it.
thing about it is, and I know you
All
say
you're
it's a
doing is
vocal
entertaining
minority.
those people. That's all this is. You're just giving them traction. See what I mean? See, it's terrible. Blah, 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 blah.
But, you know, for
Stop.
everyone that loses a game to double turn order, someone wins a game to double turn order. However, when you're in that moment, it's not fun.
I don't know. I think your outlook would be different if you played Iron Jaws back in the day and you
Yeah.
lived and died on the double turn.
Sure. And, you know, like I said, I don't mind it. It keeps you from doing stupid things.
Right.
You know, you cannot overextend your army because you just might watch it get cut off in a double turn. And, you know, I have pulled out games by the skin of my teeth because of getting a double turn. So, yeah, I think it is, like you said, it's the thing that separates AOS from every other game. I love it. I also see where that tournament crowd, that competitive crowd says it adds nothing to the competitive scene. Period, stop, end of sentence. It adds nothing to the competitive scene.
What if we added a mechanic for turn where instead of you doing all your stuff and then I do all my stuff,
If we had an I go, you go, or
If-
then a we go.
if we had a bag and we put a die in for each one of our units.
Okay, we could play bolt action instead. Okay.
Just saying.
However, I do agree that's a much nicer mechanic. And the randomness of that is so much fun. I mean, playing in the bolt action is so much fun because you never know what's coming out of that bag.
Right, but yeah, or it's a skirmish game, right? Like it's a
Yes.
much smaller game.
But I watch these people that go to the, you know, well, let's alternate units in AOS. And they're like, oh, I've got a great system for this. And they discount all the fact that all of the effects in this game are based on I go, you go.
Yeah.
And then you try to shoehorn this in. Well, how does that work with it? Well, it doesn't, does it?
Nope.
Stop trying to do that now. So, okay. We've alienated everyone.
Yep.
We've made fun of every nationality that is, including America. We have offended, I think, virtually everyone.
If not, then we
We're-
apologize.
We're sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're very, very sorry. And please, yeah, write us a note and let us know that you were not offended. And we'll work on that. Just let us know what pushes your buttons.
We'll see how we'll work that into the next show.
Yeah. And so in episode 98, we also have some really interesting questions from Ryan and Zach and Scott about thought processes for new armies. And each one of those questions sort of feeds off of the other one. So they'll be a great, it'll be the great next show. So, and I think we can really dive into that army process.
Yeah.
So, but are we done with pontificating about Broken Realms, Shattered Realms?
Yeah, because honestly, we don't have really enough to go. I mean, we have a snippet and we still made a 45-minute rant about
Yeah.
it. So,
And once we see the Marathi book, I think, well, it's not just us, but everyone will know what direction we're going and where
yeah.
things are. I know what my hope is, and I hope they're busting up the alliances
Yeah.
and giving us a little more free form narrative to play with and no more owing allegiance to. And this is from a lore perspective. I don't think it's going to change much on the game table that you lose that keyword order goes away. They will make it right. They will make it work right for the new edition and for this series of narrative books.
Fair enough.
All right, let's call it. It's been
let's-
7 hours since we started.
Yeah.
All right. Yay.
There it is.
If you would like to get in touch with us, you can reach us at our Facebook page at www.facebook.com/rollingbadpodcast, all one word. Our Patreon page is at www.patreon.com/rollingbadpodcast, again, all one word. The Twitter account for the show is at rolling_bad. And our individual Twitters are, for me, at Bill Castello, BILLCASTELLO. And for Elric, it's at Elric Edge, ELRICEDGE. All of our guests on the show will have their contact information in that show's show notes. The music in the show is used courtesy of Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com and used under the Creative Commons license. The Rolling Bad podcast is protected under the Creative Commons Attribution 4.0 International License. Information for this license can be found at creativecommons.org.